there are certain what do you call this basic guidelines when you're learning with from me, right? The basic guideline is you all are bankers. I was a banker, and I hope you all are working in the branches. Is it correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, your branch staff, and I don't think you are doing trade actively, but you want to know certain things on trade, at least to handle your customers. That's the main objective of these classes. And especially when you are working with me, I want you to talk, because this is not a Zoom class like school children, right? You all are working people, working for banks. So either in Sinhala or in English, you can ask me any questions. You can stop me and ask any questions. Right? That's a must. Now, before we start, I just want to spend about 2 minutes, very quick one, right? One by one, can you please introduce yourself? Then I will be having some idea about some background about my students. Can you one by one identify yourself, self-introduction, only your name? I don't want the surnames and everything, whatever the name you have been called, either Madhushani or Kasun or whatever. And then the bank and the branch you are working. Okay? Everybody should give a small introduction. That's it. I don't want to know whether you are married or not, whether you are having children or not, whether you have a boyfriend. No, I don't want to know about those things. Just a very simple one, your name, your bank, and the branch. Right? Shall we start from Madhushani? Everybody should talk. I have the names, then I'm going to call.
Yes, I am Madhushani Guru Singha. I am working for State Bank of India in a compliance department.
Compliance, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then another one.
I'm Kasumudanga.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with NDB Bank, Ambalanthur branch as a credit officer.
Ambalanthode.
Ambalanthode, sir.
Ambalanthode. Not Ambalanthode, Ambalanthode.
Ambalanthode.
Ambalanthode. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, credit officer. Okay, good. Then
Sam Chature, working at DFCC Bank's credit card processing department.
Sorry, what's the bank?
DFCC Bank credit card processing.
DFCC credit card.
Credit card processing department.
Okay. Okay. Then there are some more people. Talk quickly.
So I'm Imeshi, working at NDB Bank, Ambalanthura branch.
Imeshi.
Yes.
Imeshi, NDB.
Ambalanthura branch.
You people have been working with NDB for a long period?
2 years.
2 years.
Yes, 2 years.
Kasun also 2-3 years.
4 years,
4 years.
1.5 year.
Right, okay. Because I just wanted to know, well, I was a consultant to NDB Bank. That was during 2007 to 2010. Then who else? Iveshi or
Sir, I'm Sammani.
Kamani.
I'm working at DFCC Bank and currently I'm attached to branch operations department.
Branch of
Operations department.
Okay. Then there were some more people. Now 1, 2, 3, 4. Tam pasne kata kale.
Sir, I am Manushka Harshini Fernando. I'm Manushka Harshini Fernando. Working at Sanasa Development Bank as a credit officer at Kirulapana branch.
Sanasa Development.
Yes.
Credit officer. Okay.
Yes.
Who else? මට ඉස්සර බලනකොට තව නමක් කවුද? සිඩ්නි. එහෙම කියන්නේ නැද්ද? දැන් මම මේ ප්‍රශ්න අහනකොට පැනලා ගියාද? Who else?
So I am a university student at University of Colombo.
What's your name, brother?
Samita Veerapom.
Samita
Veerapom.
Samita Veerapom, University.
Yes, sir.
University, what's field you are studying?
Management and finance. Finance department under.
Finance
Yes.
department. Okay, fine. Right. Okay.
Sir,
yes, please.
Sir, Sidmi has some of issues of mic. Sidmi is working at NDB Bank, Ambulantara branch as a BA.
Sydney also NDB Bank, Ambulantara.
Yeah.
Sydney පොඩි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවද මයික් එකේ?
ඔව් මයික් එක ඔන් කරගන්න බෑ කියලා.
Right, okay. Sydney ඇහෙනවද?
ඇහෙනවා කියලා කිව්වා මට කියන්න කියලා කිව්වා.
එහෙනම් ඔයාට කියන්න කිව්වේ ඇහෙන හින්දා තමයි. Right. Okay, right. Thank you. So once again to all of you, very good afternoon. Now in this particular your course, branch operations course, I am handling international trade part. So you are going to work with me this today and next week, right? And if I am going to tell you about me, I am a professional banker. I started my career with Standard Chartered Bank, and I was a head of trade. I worked there for 25 years. Then I moved to HSBC Bank, based in Dubai. So I worked overseas for 10 years, and I was the regional head of trade finance, looking after 9 countries, entire trade operations in 9 countries, Middle East countries, including Pakistan. Later, Pakistan also started reporting to me. Then, after coming back, I worked as consultant to NDB Bank. NDB Bank, I'm the one who you people must be using KYC forms and customer due diligence and everything. I'm the one who started that unit and did the work for them. Then again, I joined HSBC, and then from the inception of Cargill's Bank, I was asked to join them and to set up trade finance department for Cargill's Bank. So I set up the department, trained the people, and then what I did was within 2 years, we started the operation in 2014, and by 2016, I make profits from trade finance department. After that, I resigned from banking career. Presently, I'm mainly working as a lecturer and a resource person, especially for IBSL. I'm the one who doing international trade for BABF, DBF, then higher diploma in trade finance, as well as postgraduate executive diploma in bank management. Apart from that, time to time, I'm doing consultation and lecturing for many banks in the country, especially I'm a regular trainer at NDB Bank also. NDB Commercial, Sampat, a lot of banks and public bank have done lectures. And then I'm also a resource person and visiting lecturer for University of California. University of California, they have a special degree, 4-year special degree in banking, and I am teaching the 3rd-year students in the international trade operations. And since recently, I'm lecturing for corporate campus also on international trade. So that's my background. So I have a very long history with international trade. So I'll try to give you whatever you want to learn. But there is a very important point here. When I jot down your names, I jot down your banks, and I jot down what is your present job. None of you are working for trade. I don't think you are having trade experience. So then this is very important to have trade experience. Trade is a very vital area in entire banking operations, right? So here we are going to discuss our objectives for today and next day. You should learn about introduction to international trade and the payment methods, then the Incoterms, its meaning and implication for customers and bankers, trade document and their key features, documentary credits, regulations governing foreign trade, risk associated with international trade. This is trade is missing, right? Bank guarantees, products for import and export financing. So those are the areas we are going to cover, vast area. So I will rush through certain things, right? But only thing, what I'm requesting you is stop me. You have the liberty to stop me at any time and ask any questions. Don't wait till I ask questions. You better ask questions from me if you can't understand. ඕනම භාෂාවෙන් අහන්න. ලැජ්ජ වෙන්න එපා. සිංහලෙන් හරි ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන් හරි ඕනම විදිහකට ප්‍රශ්නේ මේ කියන එක තේරෙනවා නම් ප්‍රශ්නේ ඕන විදිහකට අහන්න. දෙමෙන් ඇහුවොත් හොඳලාට කවුරුක්වත් නැහැ මම හිතන්නේ. එහෙම වුණොත් නම් මම පොඩ්ඩක් හිර වෙයි. හරි? අර භාෂා දෙකෙන් මට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. That's why it is perfectly okay to ask any questions. It will not only help you, but help another who is possibly shy of asking. Do not hold back any questions. Classes if you are having the eye contact, if it is a physical class, then the scenario is different. But ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ දැක්ක ගමන් තේරෙනවා ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙනවද නැද්ද කියලා. දැන් මට ඔයගොල්ලන්ව පේන්නේ නැහැ. right? ඉතින් එතෙන්දී අහන්න. හිතන්න එපා සහිතනවා දන්නේ මම මෝඩ ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහුවා කියලා. එහෙනම් එහෙම නැත්නම් දැන් මදුෂානි මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ අහන්න නැතුව ඉන්නවා. මේ අනෙක් කට්ටිය මේ අනෙක් කසුන්ඩා එතකොට සිත් විදෑම මොනවා හිතනවද දන්නේ නැහැ. මට තේරුන්නේ නැහැ කියලා හිතනවද දන්නේ නැහැ. ඔයාට විතර නෙමෙයි ඒ මිනිස්සුන්ට තේරෙලත් නැහැ. හරිද? ඉතින් ප්‍රශ්න අහන්න නැතුව ඉන්නවා කියන්නේ තේරිලා නැති අය. තේරිච්ච කට්ටිය තමයි ප්‍රශ්න අහන්නේ. ඉතින් ඒකින්ද ඕන වෙලාවක ප්‍රශ්න අහන්න අඩුම ගානේ මේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහනවා කියන්නේ you are helping the others. You are helping the others. There are some people very shy. Right? එතකොට අඩු ගානේ එයාගේ ප්‍රශ්නේ එයාගේ හිතේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක්. ඔගොල්ලෝ right? ඒකින්ද මානසික ප්‍රශ්න අහන්න. Now we'll come back to the subject. Before I start talking about the thing, I just want to tell you why you are here and why banks like doing trade operations. Why banks like doing trade operations, right? Within all the banks, State Bank of India, NDB, DFCC, Sunset Development, are you doing trade finance? Sunset Development, are you doing trade finance? Huh?
No.
No. Yeah, Harshini, you are not doing trade finance, but you are giving loans.
Yes.
You are giving loans to importers and exporters. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay, fine. The එහෙනම් ඔයගොල්ලෝ trade දැනගෙන ඉන්න ඕන මොනවද වෙන්නේ කියන එක. Right? ඒක හොඳටම දැනගෙන ඉන්න ඕන. And most of the banks, even when we started Cargill's Bank in 2012, from the day one, we wanted to have trade services department. Why? Because the trade services transactions have multiple revenue streams. Right? Multiple revenue streams from one transaction. For example, when we issue a document credit, or in simple, popular way, we call it LC, letter of credit. But the correct word is documentary credit. Right? When we issue a LC, we get issuing commission. Then we charge for the SWIFT charges. Do you know that SWIFT message, when we are sending a LC, that is about 2 pages, 2.5 pages SWIFT message, will cost you about $4 or $4.50. Maximum $5. Maximum $5 තමයි එන්නේ. අපි තුමු $5 කියන්නේ into 200 කියන්නේ 1000 rupees. අපේ LC SWIFT charges අපි ගන්නවා 3000 rupees. අද ගන්න 1000 දීලා කමිෂන් උත් ගන්නවා කස්ටමර් ගෙන්. ඒ මැදිවට SWIFT එකනොත් කොටා ගන්නවා තව 2000. Right? Then we collect advising charges. When we advise LC to the other bank, advising charges. Then when we are negotiating the bills, negotiating charges. And if you come across any discrepancies, then we charge discrepancy fee. And when we have to do the payment, outward payment, you have to settle the bill, the forex commission. Right? On top of that, handling charges, everything. So one transaction, we can maximize our revenue. Right? LC charge එක විතරක් නෙමෙයි. LC commission එක එන්න එක. මම දැක්කම එක LC එක හරියම කොච්චර commissions අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන්ද revenue. Customers may complain about bank charges. They do. But however, they will stick with the bank due to the strong expertise of the bank. They will say, අයියෝ ඔගොල්ලෝ හැම එකටම අපෙන් ගන්නවා. එහෙනම් ඉතින් යන්න වෙන ඒකට හැම බැංකුවක්ම charge කරනවා. But they will stick with us because bank has the expertise, right? And when it comes to branch banking, that is why I am also very much interested, because entire People's Bank I used to train them on a regular basis, right? For a class, normally I am having 80 to 100 people, People's Bank only, because but they have a very focused objective. They are doing trade finance operations for the branch staff. Branch staff. Then කවුද ඉමේෂි එහෙම කසුන් NDB එකේ ඔගොල්ලෝ බ්‍රාන්ච් එකේ ඉන්නේ නේද? ඔගොල්ලෝ ගාවට කස්ටමර් ඇවිල්ලා ඔගොල්ලන්ගේ කස්ටමර්ස් තමයි හෙඩ් ඔෆිස් එකෙන් LC කරලා අරින්නේ. You are not opening the LC, but the customer will come to you first. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the customer will come to you, and you are the one who refer their operations to your trade finance department in Colombo, right? And then they will open the LCs and everything. But as the first contact, you should know what your customer is doing, and you should know how to handle their queries. So every query, when the customer is having, every time when a customer talks to cousin, cousin sir, කොහොමද මේ දැන් මේ LC එකට කමිෂන් කොහොමද සර් ගන්නෙ? චුට්ටක් ඉන්න ගෙව්වා කෝල් කළා හෙඩ් ඔෆිස් එකේ යාළුවෙක්ට කතා කරනවා මේ මචං LC charges කීයද? කීයක් ගන්නවද? thank you කියලා තියෙනවා. දැන් මෙයාට කියනවා. දැන් ඔන්න විනාඩියකට එනකොට අර කස්ටමර් ආපහු කියනවා. සර් දැන් LC එක අරින්න කොච්චර කාලයක් යනවද? දැන් මොනවද මේකේ මේ කන්ඩිෂන්ස් මේ දානේවා මේවා හරියද මේ කන්ඩිෂන්ස් මොන වගේ කන්ඩිෂන්ස් මේකේ යන්න ඕනේ? චුට්ටක් ඉන්නේ. ආපහු කෝල් කරනවා. අපි දැකලා තියෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ අරයන්ගෙන් අහනවා මචං මෙන්න මේ යකා මෙන්න මෙහෙමත් අහනවා මේ යකා මෙහෙම අහනවා. හරි මොල කරදරයක්. එහෙම තමයි අපි කතා කරන්නේ. මොල කරදරයක්. මේ රටේ නැතිව අහලා ඉන්න. අර කස්ටමර් බලන් ඉන්නවා. Every time when he has a question, you go back to the head office. Oh, you see. Customer දැනගන්න මේ මිනිස්සයාට නම් මේකේ අගක් තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right? So therefore, as branch people, it is very, very important. You don't have to open LCs, you don't have to do the nitty-gritty things, but you should be able to deal with your customers, to answer their basic questions and understand their business. Then only you will be in a better position, right? Since all the trade products have fixed tenors and are generally short term, overdue flag, early signals of problem in the customer's working capital cycle and are thus self-monitoring. All trade finance products are 99% of the trade finance products are short term. Short term can not even 3 months, 4 months. LC carrier 3 months, 4 months යනකොට බඩුත් ඇවිල්ලා payments කරලා ක්ලියර් කරලා ඔක්කොම කරලා ඉවරයි. So it's easy to monitor. And if there's any overdue flags, then those are the signals of problems. Then the customer is having working capital issues, right? So we have to monitor it very carefully. Then, for example, import LC. We open the LC, we import LC, expiring unutilized. We open the LC, but goods are not coming. So that means problems in procurement. Problems in procurement. Right? Import loan getting overdue. We have given import loans to the customer, but they are getting overdue. Right? So it's problems in sales. Problems in sales. Right? Sales bills remaining overdue. Sales bills remaining overdue. That shows the customer is having problems in their collection process. Right? Credit risk is substantially lowered since the financing of products can be closely aligned to the customer's trade transaction, as well as very often provide control over the underlying goods and the cash flows. Always, this is trade transactions are in line with the underlying goods, right? So, if you do it properly, it is easy to monitor. Right. That is why we have to learn trade. That is why we learn trade. And I'll give you another example. I'm always telling this to the branch staff when I'm doing training. NDB නම් ගොඩක් I'm training කරලා තියෙනවා ලංකාව පුරාම දෙන branch staff වලට. I don't know how I have missed you people. Now, for example, we take NDB Ambalantara. There are 3 people in this class. NDB Ambalantara. Ambalantara is one of the, if I'm correct, Ambalantara is one of the longest towns we are having. එහෙම නේද කසල්?
හවුද?
අම්බලන්තොට ටවුන් එක පටන් අරගෙන ඉවර වෙන්න කිලෝමීටර් 2.5 විතර යනවා නේද?
යනවා සර්. ඕක අර හම්බන්තොට මේ ගොඩක් තියෙනවා කිලෝමීටර් දිගටම ටවුන් එක තියෙනවා සර්.
දිගටම ටවුන් එක. දිගටම ටවුන් එක. And even in other areas, how many banks are there in Ambalantota main street? So many banks situated next to each one, right? හැම තැනම තියෙනවා අල්ලපු ඕගලංග මොකද ඕගලංග අල්ලපු බැංක් එක?
යුනියන් බැංක් එක.
Union Bank. Then
සම්පත්
තියෙනවා. මීටර 100ක් ඇතුළත කොච්චරද බැංක්ස් තියෙනවද? නිකන් කියන්න මම
6ක් විතර තියෙනවා සර්.
6ක් ඇතුළත මීටර 100ක්.
ඔව්.
Within 100 meters you are having about 6 banks, different banks. All are doing trade finance. Right? So when the customer comes to you and when you talk to them and when you advise them, when you give them the correct advice, he will be happy to work with you. And this is very competitive. Branch banking is very, very, very competitive. Once a customer comes to you to open a LC or anything, first they have to open a current account. Then you will ask him to open a savings account. Then he will give you some fixed deposits, and on top of that, we are going to charge them commission, non-funded income and funded income, everything. Interest, loan interest, import loan interest, export loan interest, everything. Funded and non-funded income, everything. Right? So, if you don't tackle them properly, if you don't give them what they want, there are so many banks. Why should they come to NDB? If they go to Sampath will give a better service. If that particular guy, trade officer in Sampath, has a better knowledge about trade, so he will advise a customer in a better way. Definitely, he will like to work with someone. He will prefer someone, right? So this is a competitive business. Whoever the customer who comes to the bank, you have to keep him with you. You have to keep him with you, right? Right. That is why we have to learn trade, right? Not to do trade operations, just to have a conversation with your customer, and to understand your customer, right? Okay. Now we'll see how international trade differs from domestic trade. We have international trade and we have domestic trade. How many people in this class have done domestic trade? Think you are a customer. Have you done any domestic trade? Samani, have you done any domestic trade? What I want to answer, I want is yes or no. Have you done any domestic trade? දේශීය වෙළඳාමක් කරලා තියෙනවද? කරලා තියෙනවද? ඔව්. අනිත් අය මදුෂානි?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Very good. Then Samita? No need to be a banker. Have you done any? Huh?
No, no, sir.
No. No. Right. Imeshi?
Yes, sir.
Yes. What is domestic trade? Samita විතරයි දැන් කිව්වේ කරලා නැහැ කියලා. මේ දවස්වල නැහැ සමිත. මේ දවස්වල නම් ගේන්නට බැහැ නෑ. Travel restrictions නේ. එහෙම නැත්තම් ඒ දින ගේ ගාවට එනව නේද? ඔයගොල්ලන් ඉන්න තැනට එනවා ඇති නේද? ලෝරි වල මිනිස්සු. අහම බඩු ගන්නෙ නැද්ද ඔයගොල්ලෝ? ගන්නවද නැද්ද?
ගන්නවා sir.
ගන්නවා. ඉතින් ඒක නේද මේ ඩොමෙස්ටික් ට්‍රේඩ් කියලා කියන්නේ. අපි කඩේ යනවා, බඩු ගන්නවා, සල්ලි දෙනවා, බඩු ටික උස්සන් එනවා. අපි ෂොප් එකකට යනවා, ෂර්ට් එකක් බලනවා. right? ෂර්ට් එකේ සයිස් එක බලනවා, කලර් එක බලනවා. මට හොඳ නම් අරගන්නවා. හැබැයි නිකන් අරන් එන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ. කන්ට ගහයි කඩකාරයා. අපි කඩකාරයට ඒක සල්ලි දෙනවා. දීලා අපි මේක අරන් යනවා. You are the buyer and the seller is the shop. Seller is the shop, you are the buyer. Simple as that. Right? Everybody has done domestic trade. Right? You have to. Right? If you want to buy a shirt, if you want to buy a sari, what do you call a jacket or whatever, handbag, a ladies' handbag, it is domestic trade, right? So we'll see what are the characteristics of domestic trade. They have a common language and culture. They have a common language and culture, right? When you go to the shop, you talk to them in Sinhala. එතන ගිහලා චීන භාෂාවෙන් කතා කරන්න යන්නේ, right? ඒ වගේම සංස්කෘතියත් එකම සංස්කෘතියක් තියෙනවා. The same law applicable to Sri Lanka, right? Absence of custom formalities. We don't have to worry about customs. There's no custom formalities, right? Custom duty ගන්න නැහැ මේ කඩෙන් බීලුණු කිලෝ එකක් ගන්නකොට, ෂර්ට් එකක් ගන්නකොට, සරමක් ගන්නකොට custom duty ගන්නෑ. ඒවා ගෙවලා ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. මේ තියෙන්නේ domestic trade එක. Usually very simple documentation. Very simple documentation. You don't have to have a bill of lading, then a packing list, commercial invoice. Eva, what is the only documentation in domestic trade? What is the only documentation?
Invoice or receipt.
Invoice or the receipt. Invoice වැඩිය පුතේ කඩේ ගියාම අපි ගන්නේ receipt එක දෙන්නේ නේද? බඩු ගත්තාම receipt එක දෙනවා. That's a very simple documentation. A single currency. We are not going to settle the Malukarya with US dollar currency note or sterling pound currency note. No. You pay them in rupees, a single currency, right? Relatively simple formalities to transport goods from buyer to seller, right? We have to transport the goods from buyer to seller. Sorry. Transport goods from seller to buyer, seller to buyer, buyer to seller, seller to buyer, seller to buyer, right? එතකොට අපි ගත්තා බෑග් එක දාගත්තා සිල්සිල් බෑග් එකේ ගෙදර අරන් ආවා. මේ හන්දියේ කඩෙන් බඩු අරන් ගෙදර එන්න වාට කන්ටේනර් එකක් ගන්න ඕනෙත් නෑ. ඕනේ වේ සමහරට බඩු වල සයිස් එක හැටියට සමහර විට ඒක. නැත්නම් 99.999%. ඕන තරම් බඩු ගේන සිල්සිල් මල් එක දාගත්තා අරන් ආවා. That's the transport, right? Then we'll see what are the characteristics of international trade. When it comes to international trade, that means trading between two countries, trading between two countries, two geographical areas, right? So whatever the things you are manufacturing, you have to sell it to some other unknown parties in another country. So you have to market it. You have to spend more money on marketing. Now, for example, just say if you want to buy a television set, මම උගන්ට ගන්නකොට මගේ අනිත් ක්ලාසස් මේ වගේමයි මම ගොඩාක් ළමයින්ට උගන්වන්නේ තියරි උගන්වන්නේ බොහොම සරලව කරන්නේ. හරියට නිකන් කතන්දරයක් කියන්න ඕනේ. මම හිතන්නේ ඒක ටිකක් වෙලා ගියාට ඔයගලන්ගේ ඔළුවට වදී. එහෙම නේද? දැන් චූටි කාලේ when we were small ones, our grandparents, either Sia or Archie, used to relate us stories. චූටි කාලේ ආච්චිලා සීලා අපිට කතන්දර කියලා දෙනවනේ. Right? එතකොට කියනවා once upon a time there was a prince, right, who was in love with another beautiful princess. ඔය වගේනේ යන්නේ. ඔය වගේ යන ඒවා තාම අපිට මතකයි අපි ආච්චිලා සීලා කියලා තියෙන කතන්දර. මම පොඩ්ඩක් වෙනස් පුද්ගලෙක්ද මම දන්නේ නැහැ. මම A level කරලා ඉවර වෙලා දැන්ට අවුරුදු දැන් අවුරුදු 52ක් විතර වෙනවා A level කරලා. Right? Since I am involved in teaching, I am updating my knowledge. ඒක හින්දා මට උගතම මතකයි. I did science, medicine කළේ කියලා එතකොට ඒ තිබුණේ ඒවා බොටනි වල සමහර ඒවා තාමත් මට ඒවා හොඳට තාම මතකයි. මොකද මම ගොඩක් කියවලුද. ගොඩක් කට්ටියට මේ මගේ වයසට එනකොට ඒවා මතක නැහැ. හැබැයි අපිට මතකයි අපි ආච්චිලා සීලා කියපු කතන්දර. ඒක අපි ඉන්ට්‍රෙස්ටිං ගහන් හිටියා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේම තමයි මම ඔයගොල්ලොත් එක්ක කරනකොට පුළුවන් තරම් කොහොම සරලව කතා කරන්නේ. ඒක ඕගොල්ලොත් මාත් එක්ක කතා කරනවා. ඒතර ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මේකේ අයිඩියා එක right? I will use both. I purposely using the both languages, bilingual, because I can normally my medium of lecturing is in English, but when it comes to branch people and all those things, I'm a product English. ඒ මැන එක හොඳයි නේද ඔයගලන්ට? ඔයගලන්ට අහන්න තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක් වුණා බය නැතුව අහන්න පුළුවන් නේ. මට ඔයගලන්ගේ බය නැති කරලා ඔයගලන්ට අහන්න තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ මට අහගන්න විතරයි මට ඕනේ. Right? But you can ask the questions in any language. So, take for example, singer. Sorry, you want to buy a television. Television ගන්න ඕන වුණාම what are the televisions available in the market? Yes, tell me quickly. What are the televisions available in the market? If few people are talking, then I can මට මේක ඉවර ගන්න පුළුවන් 2 hours එකෙන් අද ඔක්කොම ටික ඉවර ගන්න පුළුවන්. right? මම මෙච්චර අදින්න ඕනේ නැහැ. මොකද? ටෙලිවිෂන් එක ගන්න ඕන නම් මොනවද මාකට් එකේ තියෙන ටෙලිවිෂන් සෙට්ස් දැන් roughly එකක් දෙයක් කියන්න බලන්න.
අබාන් සිංගර්
අබාන්ස් ගන්න තියෙනවා සිංගර් අබාන්ස් LG සිංගර් තියෙනවා වෙන then soft logic Samsung නේද soft logic එකේ Samsung තියෙනවා ඉතින් ඒ වගේ තියෙනවා then you have a choice, right? So for them to for you to buy, then they have to do the marketing. One තරම් marketing කර දාන්න දැන් Sony, Samsung, Singer, Singagiri එතකොට අබාන්ස් ලගේ LG කේක විදිහට ඇඩ්වර්ටයිස් කරනවා පත්‍රවල බිල්බෝඩ්ස් වල දුකට දාලා තියෙනවා, right? So it is very costly marketing efforts when it comes to international trade. We are marketing some manufactured product of another country in Korea or China. Then coping with custom formalities. The goods have to cross the customs. Then there will be export duty, import duty, blah, blah, blah. Many custom formalities. Then dealing with different legal requirements. The two countries are having two different legal requirements. The relatively complex transport arrangements. You can't bring 1,000 units of TVs in a plane or anything. So you have to put it in a container, then you have to look for a good vessel and to coming from Japan to Colombo, right? World Express okay, vessel right? එතකොට අපි ඔක්කොම check කරලා බලන්න ඕන. It's very complex. Risk involved.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
The legal requirements for the commercial purposes and the private purposes are differs, right? When it comes to units 10ක් ගේනකොට තියෙන legal purpose උයි තමන්ගේ ප්‍රයෝජනයට ගෙදි unit එකක් නම් ගේන්නේ.
Yes. Yeah, you mean for your own benefit. I mean for your only for your use.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you are bringing it on commercial basis, it's a different thing, right? The legal process is same, but there are country laws, exchange control laws, and central bank regulations. Right? We are going to talk about that, right? The last session I'm going to touch is the import and export regulations, right? Okay. Take a different way now. Then risk involved in foreign currency settlement. We have to settle the bills in foreign currency, not like local domestic trade. Domestic trade by rupees. Yeah, foreign currency, right? Then no guarantee of value at the time of settlement. Conversion rate getting changed. It went up to 203. Now it has come down to 197. Tomorrow we don't know whether it will go up to 198. It's like that, right? Risk of buyer default. Risk of buyer default. Unknown parties. The buyer is in one country, seller is in another country. You don't know each other. The same thing will apply even if you are bringing something for your own use. Again, you don't know, you have no idea about the seller in Dubai or Japan or UK. The unknown parties and overseas government actions. Overseas governments, there are so many regulations. Take for example, take Sri Lanka at the moment, right? I have done my banking experience is about 46 years, banking experience, right? Out of that, more than 30 years in trade. But if you ask me to do take over a department now, I will be in a real tight situation. Not because of operations, because of the government regulations. Since the COVID start, so many regulations, which we are going to discuss, right? I think for you people, it is very, very important. Then why do countries trade? Now, always we have to analyze the relationship between consumption and work and specialization and division of labor. Like when you take Sri Lanka for paddy cultivation is the product. We take two countries, Sri Lanka and Singapore, right? Who has the better advantage, Sri Lanka or Singapore? Paddy cultivation.
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka. Why? Why? Talk.
The climate and the resources we have.
Climate and the resources we have specialization in doing this, and we have what do you call that, irrigation systems, right? ඒ වගේ දේවල් තියෙනවා අපේ. ඒකින්ද අපේ we have specialization. Then nowadays even towns and cities are not normally self-sufficient. Self-sufficient නම් මේ දවස්වල travel restrictions කාලේ අපේ ගෙවල් වලට එළවලු මාළු ගේන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. අපි self-sufficient නම් අපේ city එක we can look after within our city. No, we have to bring food, vegetables from Nambulla, Kapitipola. That's the situation, right? So even the cities are not self-sufficient, right? And again, why countries are doing international trade? Because there are some free trade agreements between countries. We call NAFTA, SMP, WTO, then SAARC, right? And there are certain bilateral agreements, multilateral agreements, right? We are tend to make business with other countries, right? Then we'll see who are the parties involved in international trade operations. One is buyer. They are the people who places orders and imports goods. The seller, He's the manufacturer and he's the one who exports the goods, right? Sometimes seller is not the manufacturer. Manufacturer is somebody else. If the seller does not make his own goods, then he has to buy it from manufacturer locally and then export. Shipping companies or airline companies for transportation. Insurance companies. The goods have to be insured because it has to transport from one end of the world to the other end of the world. Right? Japan to Colombo, Japan to Dubai, Japan to London. Right? Then we have to insure the goods. Otherwise, if something happens during the voyage, then there will be a damage. Governments and embassies, they are the people who give permission to import or export specific types. Upon government ticket, we have to get the import license, right? Export license, lot of things. The customs and excise, they are the people who levy import duty and issue custom invoices. Various professional bodies who are, if you have to take inspection certificate and all those things. Then lawyers to draw up the contract of sale. There should be a contract of sale between the buyer and the seller. So those contracts are normally been drawn by the lawyers, right? Okay. Cbom, agents. In some countries, there are agents. Now, for example, Abans. Abans is the agent for LG, right? SoftLogic, they are the agent for Samsung. Singer Sri Lanka is the agent for Singer Products. Singer is a worldwide name, right? Likewise. Then Chamber of Commerce, who issues certificate of origin. If we need certificate of origin, then those establishments, shipping registries, who ensure that the carrying ship is seaworthy. Right? Banks. Last but not the least, the banks comes. Now the banks, when it comes to banks, so they play a very, very important role. That is why people are coming to you asking for facilities, financing, right? And to open LCs, everything. Because they think banks are the most eligible and knowledgeable people who will handle international trade. හැබැයි ඉතින් ඔගොල්ලෝ අපි තමයි දන්නේ අපේ මිනිස්සුන්ගේ හැටි. ඔගොල්ලෝ කී දිනෙට පුළුවන්ද ට්‍රේඩ් ෆයිනෑන්ස් ආපු කස්ටමර් කෙනෙක්ව හරියට ටැකල් කරගන්න? හැබැයි ඒත් කස්ටමර්ස්ලා එනවා. ඒත් කස්ටමර්ස්ලා එනවා. මොකද කස්ටමර්ස්ලා දන්නේ නැහැ. කස්ටමර්ස්ලාට කියන්නේ හිතන්නේ බ්‍රාන්ච් ස්ටාෆ් කියන්නේ සියල්ල දත්ලා ඔක්කොම දන්නවා. අපි දන්නේ දන්නෝ දනිතේ අපි දන්න තරම. ඉතින් ඒකින්ද අපි ඉගෙන ගන්න ඕන හොඳට ඉගෙනගෙන තිබ්බේ නැත්නම් අපිට මේ වැඩ කරගන්න අමාරු වෙනවා. Right? Then බලමු in a trade transaction the buyer and seller agree to exchange goods and services for payment under a contract. Between them, there's a contract. So based on that, the buyer and the seller agree to exchange goods and services for payment. This contract is a foundation of the trade finance. Right? So between the buyer and the seller, first they had a contract. A contract is important today. Then and it's a foundation of the trade finance. For example, in the sale of a pen, A, the seller, and the B, the buyer. What is A concerned about? The seller. What is seller concerned about? What is seller concerned about? Omega. Ankle then obligation about trade transaction. Seller wala porte no mono.
Regular payments, sir?
Seller balane mama badu not regular payments. Very good. Very good. Who is that?
Dilshan here, sir.
Huh?
Dilshan.
Dilshan. Dilshan from which bank?
I'm from NDB, sir.
Dilshan. Asun Dilshan,
No, he's one of my staff members.
Ah, right. Dilshan, NDB. NDB what? Yeah. Ambalantara.
Yes, Ambalantara branch.
How many people? 4 people.
Yes, we do have 4 in the course.
Right. Okay. Fine. Which area you are working, Dilshan?
Sorry, sir, I didn't get you.
No, which area in the branch you are working?
Actually, I'm the branch manager.
Ah, you are the branch manager. Good. What's your surname?
Gamage.
Dilshan Gamage. Right. Okay. Right, Dilshan. So you gave the very correct answer. You gave the very correct answer. When a person sells the goods, what he wants is to get the money as soon as possible. Right? What else? What else?
Margin profit.
Pardon?
Margin or profit.
Margin or profit. Oh, margin. एक पुते एनवाने डिसीजन क्यों वागे the sales proceeds वलटा margin profit दाना तमें अभी पुना नहीं दे. अरे कमन है एक आधारी. तब what are your concerns as a seller? කවදා හරි සල්ලි හම්බුනාම කමක් නැද්ද? ඒක ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැද්ද? TV sets 500ක් එවලා අනේ වාට හම්බෙච්ච දවසට සල්ලි දෙන්නේ කියලා කමක් නැද්ද? No. You want prompt payment. You want prompt payment. Prompt payment. තව එකක්. මොනවද බලන් ඉන්නේ? එයාට තව මොනවද එයාට තියෙන බලාපොරොත්තු?
Safety of the transaction?
Huh?
Safety?
Safety. Safety ගන්න යන පුතේ බට්ටු විකර පස්සේ ගිහිල්ලා බෝධ ගිහිල්ලනත් කමන්නේ මට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ. Payment එක when it comes to international trade, if the transaction is in dollars, right? He wants to have the money in dollars, in the same currency, right? He doesn't want to have money in the any other currencies. Now, Deshan, as a branch manager, you know, Deshan, at the moment we are having a difficult situation with our customers because there's nothing to hide. What I'm discussing is not politics or anything. There's nothing to hide. We bankers, we know the truth in the country at the moment. We have a scarcity of dollars, no? Scarcity of foreign currency. Because of the scarcity of foreign currency, it is very difficult to do the settlements. Now, for importer, the import එකේ bill dollar bill එකක් settle කරනකොට අපිට foreign currency නැහැ කියලා can we send the outward remittance in Sri Lankan rupees? Like that guy in Japan or Korea or China, what can they do with Sri Lankan rupees? So they want the money in the same currency, right? When it comes to the buyer, what is buyer is concerned about? They are concerned about the quality, then the specification, timely receipt of goods, delivery terms, timely receipt of goods, right? Delivery terms. This has to be documented first in sales contract, then in an invoice. So everything, when is the delivery date, when is the last shipment date, what are the goods, what are the qualities, whether you want a proof about the quality, then you have to ask for a quality certificate, right? You want to know whether it's a duplicate one or original one, then you have to ask for a certificate of origin, right? All those things has to be documented in the sales contract. Based on the sales contract only, we do the international trade operations. So main objectives of the parties to a transaction, the buyer's objectives are contract fulfillment, under contract fulfillment to receive correct quantity and quality of the goods purchased. Buyer. Correct quantity, quality. If I am wrong, tell me. To receive in a timely manner and at the correct place. We want to receive in a timely manner and correct place. Right? Assurance that he does not have to pay the seller until he is certain that the seller has fulfilled his obligation correctly. So he needs that assurance also. Then the credit. He has to manage a cash flow with the possibility of obtaining bank finance, or he wants to defer the payment as long as possible. Given that to add in the drag and he would have to have convenience using an intervening third party in whom both buyer and seller have confidence. Who are they? Who is the intervening third party in whom both buyer and seller have confidence? Who are they? Who are they?
Banks.
Banks. Yes, you people. Yeah, you and me, they need the convenience, right? That's the banks. The seller's objective, assurance that he will be paid in full within the agreed time to deliver the contracted goods and services as quickly as possible. That's his objective. And the prompt payment, and to receive payment of the correct amount and in the correct currency. Correct amount and in the correct currency. Right? ඒක තමයි dollar bill එකක් අපිට rupees එකෙන් ගෙවන්න බෑ. It has to be dollars. We have to convert it. Right? And for them also, they need convenience of receiving payment at his own bank or through a bank in his own country. Right? There is a mismatch between buyer and the seller goals. When do you want to get paid? Now. The seller, when do you want to get paid? Now. When do buyers want to pay? Later. Is it correct, Dishan? As a manager, you know, when guys take when guys applied for loans, do they want the money immediately or whenever you are giving them?
Immediately, sir.
Immediately. But when they are going to settle the bills, settle the outstanding,
We want the money immediately as bankers.
huh? then
We want
we want the money immediately. But for the buyer, he want to drag. He want to drag. Outstanding and ekane, overdue and ekane. They want to drag. අර ගන්න හදිස්සිය නැහැ. ඒක තමයි අපිට තියෙන ලොකුම ප්‍රශ්නය. Same thing you can apply to international trade operations also, right? Payment methods, there are 4 payment methods in international trade, right? There are 4 payment methods. One is open account, second one is documentary collection, letter of credit, and cash in advance or advance payment. Advance payment, right? In the buyer's or the importer's perspective, right? According to the buyer's perspective, they have the lowest risk for the buyer is with open account. Open account means the seller will sell the goods to the buyer and then the buyer will pay. Now the buyer has received the goods, he can sell the goods and pay, right? For him, it's a lowest risk, open account. Then documentary collection, letter of credit, we call it a risk ladder, right? According to the risk ladder, the highest risk for the buyer is cash in advance. That means advance payment. If you want to buy certain things, one girl asked this question: if you want to buy one of your personal things, personal items, right? So we do transactions online transactions karla. There is a risk, high risk. You send the money in advance, right? If you don't receive the goods, if you don't receive the goods, how many times people have gone through these difficulties? Today I saw, 2 hours back, I saw in internet. These days, during the COVID period, lot of online transactions, people, they have gathered the money, they have collected the money, and without sending the goods. Cash in advance. Then the payment methods, the risk ladder, in seller's perspective, exporter's perspective, they have the best cash flow best cash flow facility when they receive the money in advance, that is advance payment. Now they have the money. Now with that money they don't have to go to the bank. They can prepare the goods, manufacture the goods and sell, because they have money in their hand. They have got the money, cash in hand or advance payment. Then letter of credit. Documentary collection is little risky, and then open account. Right? Okay. Choice of methods. Buyer-seller relationship. What determines buyer-seller relationship? Buyer's credit standing, Those things we have to check. And before we advance any money to these international trade operations, we have to check. We have to have concern over these things. Then competition, uniqueness of the product, custom made, right? Then country's condition, political, economic conditions in the country. How about we at the moment? We have this issue, country conditions. Then cash flow considerations, transaction cost, and other things, right? Charge of business. If we take the payment methods, 4 payment methods, again, cash in advance and letter of credit the terms will favor the seller. Documentary collection and open account terms favor buyer. Terms favor buyers. Open account. Open account. What is happening? The seller will ship the goods. The seller will ship the goods, and the buyer will pay by wire transfer or check or draft or credit card. And when the seller ship the goods, he will ship it and crossing their fingers and hoping to get paid. Hoping that we will get paid. Right? Foreign import regulations may prohibit. Foreign import regulations may prohibit open account. Can we get down vehicles on open account? Vehicles on open account, Madhushani?
No, sir.
No, we can't. Why? We have import regulations, right? Then full country and buyer credit risk, country and credit risk of the buyer, we have to check, right? Consider payment type, how we are going to do the payment, requires extensive knowledge of the buyer, KYC. KYC is very, very important. Now consider payment type, wire transfer based. But in Sri Lanka, at the moment, can we wire transfer like that? No. Okay. Right. Here I have given you what do you call this? Diagram of open account. Can you spend 1 minute and go by the numbers and try to understand? Right? Number 1 is between the buyer and the seller, we have to have the sales contract. Sales contract. So based on the sales contract, the seller will ship the goods to the buyer. Seller will ship the goods to the buyer. Then what buyer is going to do?
Give the payment instructions to the importer's bank.
Importer's bank. Then the importer's bank will do the importer's bank will arrange the payment. And exporter's bank will receive the payment and then they will give to the seller. Right? Right. Open account terms, major risk to the exporters on open account terms. Major risk to the exporters on open account terms. Not only open account, under any transaction, there are risks. International trade is 100% risk. I can remember once I had a customer when I was a head of trade at Standard Chartered Bank, long time back, right? I left Standard Chartered in 1997 after 25 years, right? One customer came to me, Dilishan, you know, even you are having this type of customers, but I'm going to explain to you. There are some customers, they want to show that they know everything. As branch manager, you must be having experience.
Yes, sir, it's true.
Dealing with those type of customers, right? My gawa city customers. Bank again, right? Yeah, apigawat customers. So these people, one of that guy, company again, the leading company. This guy comes to the bank. He is a financial controller, top guy, and we all are very scared of him because he know foreign exchange transactions better than me, better than us, right? They know how to. Not this particular guy knows how to convert the dollars to rupees and what are the middle rate, what are the margin we have to keep, we are keeping, right? What are the pros and what are the pros and cons, everything. He knows. Very knowledgeable guy. I made him Pandita. So one day he came to me and he asked me, Mr. Caldera, I want to do international trade. I said, good. It's a very good thing. He was into some local business that time. I want to do international trade. I said, fine. Can you help me? I said, definitely. I will help you. Definitely, I will help. Then he told me, but Mr. Caldera, the problem is, I want to do international trade without taking any risk. Without taking any risk. Can you do that? I said, yes. Without taking any risk. Right? I said, yes. Then he was telling me, Mr. Caldera, why I am really fond of you. You are the only person. I went to 5-6 banks. You are the only person told me that I can do international trade without taking any risk. I said yes. Then he asked me how. My answer was only one sentence: don't do international trade. Don't do international trade. Did you understood what I meant? Right? That guy wants to do international trade without taking any risk. I said yes. How? Don't do international trade. You can't do international trade without any risk. It is always from beginning to end, it is risky. One of the highest risky areas. We are dealing with unknown people, unknown countries, right? There are so many risks. If you are not willing to take the risk, then don't do it. Minya තේරුණා මිනිහා මාතේ තරහ වුන්නේ නැහැ. එයාට තේරුණා මං කිව්වේ මොකද කියන්නේ. මං කිව්වා I will try to advise you how to mitigate the risk. You can mitigate the risk with our knowledge, but you can't eliminate the risk. You can't eliminate the risk. They're two different things, right? This risk may be classified major risk to the exporters on open account. Risk can be classified under three main headings. One is buyer's risk. The buyer, he can be a culprit, And this buyer's risk, normally it's known as the credit risk. Right? Buyer may not pay for the goods because of insolvency or willful default. Right? Then exporter lost control of the goods at the moment he dispatched them. Finish. So after that, he is at the mercy of the buyer. Then country risk. Country risk. Importers' government may introduce laws, exchange control, which prevents payment from being made. Then Rishan Lankaව තියෙන මේකම නේද? අපිට open account payments කරන්න බෑ. Advance payment දෙන්නේ නැහැ. No circulars, all verbal, huh? That's a serious thing. All verbal, right? Then collection payments, they want to defer as much as possible. Very, very critical situation. So we have that risk, country risk, right? So for our buyers, they must be having this. Then transit risk. Goods travel from farther in international trade than they do in domestic trade. And therefore, there is more danger of loss or damage to the goods in their journey from seller to buyer. Right? From seller to buyer. So we have to cover those risks. How an importer can reduce the risk under open account. See, the word I have used, reduce, not eliminate, right? We can reduce the risk. Reduction of buyer's risk, we have to obtain status report on the buyer and update them at a regular intervals. Also can obtain detailed reports on potential buyers through various organizations like EDB, then Chamber of Commerce, right? We can get detailed reports on potential buyers. Reduction of countries, how can we do? By obtaining political and economic reports of that particular country. Then we know whether we are going to deal with that country or not. We can advise the customer. If your customer is you're working in a bank in Dubai, your customer wants to send money to the goods to Sri Lanka, right? But if you are having issue of getting the money, it's a problem. So you have to gradually and always you have to check the economic and political reports of Sri Lanka, right? And advise them. Then reduction of transit risk, definitely we can do it with the with obtaining of a what do you call this, insurance policies, right? Cash in advance. Cash in advance means we are advancing the money immediately by wire transfer, check or something. Then the seller will ship. Then no risk to the seller except order cancellation. Foreign import regulations may prohibit. Hard sell to the buyer, right? Like that. Have you done, any of you, have you done any foreign exchange transactions, your personal foreign exchange transactions under cash in advance or advance payment? Have you done? I'm 100% sure you have done.
We have done, sir.
Yes. Tell me one.
eBay payments and AliExpress payments.
Yes. Perfect. Can I have your name, please?
Dilshan.
Dilshan. Perfect, Dilshan. eBay? I think most of you must have done eBay payments. Right? eBay කරලා බඩු ආපු නැති අවස්ථාවලුත් තියෙනවනේ. ඕන තරම් තියෙනවා. මටත් වෙලා තියෙනවා. ගොඩක් වෙලා. ඒ රිස්ක් එක තියෙනවා. ඒක තමයි මම කිව්වේ you can't eliminate risk. You can mitigate. Right? So I'll give you this diagram. Study it, and meanwhile, shall we take a small break of 10 minutes? A comfort break for you to stretch your legs, and if you want, in a flask or anything, if you have a cup of tea, just pour it and come back to your table, and we'll continue exactly in 10 minutes. Then now it's 3:10. We'll do, right? I will also have a cup of tea, and I'll be back 3:10. Right? We'll start. Otherwise, I won't be able to finish the target. So the advance payment is the opposite of open account. Advance payment is the opposite of open account. There, first, the buyer will send the money because they are having a sales contract between the buyer and the seller. So based on the sales contract or the pro forma invoice, we call it pro forma invoice. Buyer will request his bank to remit that money to seller. So once the seller receives the money, then only he will ship the goods. So who is at a risk in this transaction? Buyer or seller? Who is at a risk?
Buyer.
Buyer. Buyer is at a risk. Advance payment. A buyer makes payment to a seller in advance before the goods are shipped due to following reasons. Either the seller unwilling to ship the goods to buyer's country due to country risk. Right? Especially these days, if one of your customers are going to export things to some countries like Syria, Palestine, or Israel or something, right? Don't advise them to do it under advance payment, because you might not get the goods because of the country risk. Buyer wish to encourage the seller into a long-term trade relationship. Seller may not have finance to prepare the goods. That may be another reason. And the buyer feels comfortable with its relationship with the seller and their country risk. Under advance payment in Sri Lanka, are there any limit under advance payment? As branch people and trade people, you should know. Under advance payment, are there any limit in Sri Lanka? Limit at not. Can you put it? Nothing again.
No, sir.
No limit, huh? On the advance payment. Is Dishan there? Is Dishan there? Right. You should have known this. Right? Anybody from NDB? Anybody from NDB? Are there any limits? There is a limit. Very, very important. What is the limit? Maximum limit we can do advance payment. US dollars 50,000. Please jot down. US dollars 50,000 is the limit under advance payment. You can't remit any money about that. There are ways you can do it, but that particular part your trade department will handle. But as a branch person, you should know that there is a limit, right? You can't just send money out on advance payment more than 50,000, right? The
Yes,
third,
it's a per transaction limit, per transaction, per customer limit.
per transaction per customer,
Okay.
per transaction. If one customer wants to send 40,000 to A in Dubai, and on the same day another 40,000 to B in Hong Kong, you can, right? But per transaction, you can't send more than 50,000. The same day you can send 2 transactions to 2 beneficiaries. That's not a problem. Got it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right. Okay. The third payment method is documentary collection. So the first two extreme, the open account and the advance payment, right? In both advance payment and open account, the banks are not getting involved. Only thing, when the customer comes to the bank and asks us to do the remittance, we'll do it, right? Otherwise, the documents are not routed through the banks. But this is the compromise between the two extreme models. Documentary collection, right? Here what is happening is, just show it to you, between the importer and exporter, we have the commercial contract, and then the documents are routed through the respective banks, exporters bank and the importers bank, right? The earlier two methods, advance payment and open account, documents are not routed through the banking channels, right? Okay. Documentary collection, disguised open account transaction. It's a disguised open account transaction, right? Customer will get the money and then we will remit the, buyer will get the goods and then we will remit the money. It's like open account, but it's a disguised open account transaction, but the documents are routed through banks. Less secure than letter of credit. Less secure than letter of credit, right? But more secure than open account. The benefits: don't encumber buyer's line of credit, very inexpensive, effective if properly structured, use the correct Incoterms and role of banks and freight forwarders. If you do it effectively, it is beneficial and less expensive than the letter of credit. The risk to the importer is little more than LCs, right? But the risk to the exporter is much greater because he does not have a bank's guarantee, as in the case of a documentary credit. Documentary credit is LC. So if the buyer sends the money, then he will get it. But there's no bank guarantee from the bank that they will do the payment, right? Parties to a collection. There are few parties. One party is seller. Another name for the seller is exporter, or drawer and principal. Normally we call him principal, right? Why we say drawer? He is the drawer of the bill of exchange. In collection documentation, we had to draw a bill of exchange. The person who draws the bill of exchange is the drawer, right? The remitting bank, the party that sends the collection of the exporter's bag is called remitting bank. Then presenting bank. Presenting bank. Presenting bank is the bank that makes the documents available to the buyer. Or drawee's bank, right? Generally in the buyer's country. The buyer, another name is importer, or the drawee of the bill of exchange. Now we'll see what is the difference between the collecting bank and the presenting bank. Now, for NDB guys, I think I can take them as an example. Is Kasan there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Kasan. Right. Kasan, now one of your customers are going to get documents from Standard Chartered Bank, Dubai. Right? Then now the seller is in Dubai. Seller's bank is, remitting bank is Standard Chartered Bank. Now Standard Chartered Bank, they have a group policy. When they are sending the documents, they will not, but the customer is NDB customer. They will send the goods, they will send the documents to their branch in Colombo, Standard Chartered Bank, Colombo. So Standard Chartered Bank, Colombo is a collecting bank.
Okay, sir.
Right? That's a collecting bank. But once they receive the documents, they will send the documents to NDB bank, because NDB is the presenting bank. They are the people who makes the documents available to the buyer. Right? Now you understand the difference between collecting bank and presenting bank. In collection operations, 95% of time, collecting bank and presenting bank is one and same. But there are certain instances like Standard Chartered, HSBC, Deutsche Bank, they have their group policies. So they prefer to deal with only with their branches. Right? So then we have a different bank. Right? When I was working as a DGM Cargills, I used to get a lot of sugar collection bills, used to come to NDB bank, your trade department, and they are the collecting bank, and they send the documents to Cargills bank, because customer is my customer. But your correspondent banking facility is with NDB, right? It was like that. Now you can see the diagram of collection cycle site. Site means you pay when you see the bill, you pay at site, right? So between the buyer and the seller, you get commercial contract, right? So based on the commercial contract, the exporter or the principal will it is raining heavy. What about your areas? Is it raining?
Yes, sir, rainy
මම
here
හැබැයි
also.
collection මගේ collection නෙමෙයි වහිනවද කියලා හෙව්වේ. වහිනවනේ. Okay. Where do you stay, by the way?
I'm in Mull area, sir.
Rural area. ළඟ. Right. Okay. Mull area near the hospital and or
Old Avisavella Road, sir.
Old Avisavella Road. Okay, okay. Right. Then the exporter will ship the goods and then give the documents. He will present the documents to his bank. We call that bank remitting bank. Remitting bank is domiciled in exporter's country, right? Then the remitting bank will send the documents to the presenting bank, right? The presenting bank will give the documents to the importer. But immediately, first they had to pay, right? So number 5 is debit account. Importer will, the presenting bank will debit importer's account, and then only they will give the documents to the importer, right? Because the documents comes as DP. DP. DP documents like DP. Documents against payment. First you do the payment, then only you will get the documents. Documents against payment. Right? Then with the documents, he will go to the port and get the goods cleared. Meanwhile, the presenting bank will remit the money or reimburse the money to the remitting bank, and the remitting bank will pay the exporter. And that is the cycle of sight. In collection, you get another product, usance. We call it DA. Usance DA. Documents against acceptance. The importer will accept the draft to be paid on a future date. Then based on that, we will give the documents. And on the future date, he will come and settle the bills. Now we'll see the transaction again, very much similar to the side one. Between importer and exporter, we have the commercial contract. So based on the contract, number 2, exporter will do the shipment and give the documents to the remitting bank. Number 3, right? Then remitting bank will send the collection to the collecting or presenting bank. When they receive the documents, they will inform the importer. Number 5% they will inform the importer, look, we have received a set of collection bills, DA bills. So the importer will come to the bank and accept the draft to be paid on a future date as agreed. Then only we give the documents to them. Number 7. So when they receive the documents, they will go to the port and get the thing clear. Bill of lading on the maturity date, due date, importer has to pay the collecting bank. Then the collecting bank will deduct their charges and send the money to remitting bank. Remitting bank will deduct their charges and give the money to export. But less charges කියන්නේ එතරින් එහාට ඔක්කොම banks වලින් charges අපි ගන්නවා. The banks are not වෙසක් දන්සල් නේ. Banks are there to charge. We are doing a service and the customer has to pay for that service. Right? So this is the DA. Documents against acceptance. Documents against acceptance. Other one is documents against payment. Right?
So excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can you explain a little bit on the bill of exchange, the role of the bill of exchange under the documentary collection?
The next presentation is documents in international trade. I am going to discuss about bill of exchange.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Right. I'm very happy this class. I'm very happy with this class because this is the way you have to learn, especially virtual. Yeah, when we are having virtual classes, right? You have to ask, you have to stop me and ask questions. That we are not seeing each other, right? Work on that. The worst classes are university classes. University students, අපි එක්කෙනෙක් ඉන්නව නේද? පොඩ බණීත් දන්නෙත් නෑ සමිත කියලා වැඩක් නෑ. මගේ ෆිසිකල් ක්ලාස් එකේදී කතා කරන්නෙත් නෑ. virtual ක්ලාස් එකේදී කොහොමත් නෑ. හැබැයි ළමයි හොඳට පාස් වෙනවා. මම ළමයෙක්ව පාස්. මට පුදුමයි. මම ළමයෙක්ව පාස්. කතා කරන්නේ නෑ. ඒ කතා කරලා ඉගෙන ගන්න ඕන. එක්කෙනාගේ හැටි වෙන්න ඕන. Then delivery of financial and commercial documents and the risk involved. One is DP risk, documents against payment. If the importer refuses to pay, we have a problem, right? So the remitting bank will instruct the collecting bank, please remove the goods from the port to a warehouse and insure them against fire. But the banks are not going to do that. Immediately we will refuse that, right? And normally in the collection instruction, when they are sending, the remitting bank sending the collection instructions, they mention case of need. The case of need. In case of a problem, please contact this particular fellow, right? Then you can contact Mr. Ferra and ask him to negotiate with the importer. Why he is not coming to the bank, right? Contact the case of need. Or the protest the bill through the bank's lawyer. This is a lengthy legal battle, which 100% banks doesn't want to get involved. So I'm not going to discuss regarding the protesting. Reason is we don't have enough time to discuss those articles and everything. This is not the forum. For you, the most important thing is the DP risk. If the customer is not coming to collect the documents, then you have to go back to the remitting bank and tell them, right? Or you have to contact the case of need if they have given it. But in the branches, you don't have to worry. All these things will be handled by your trade finance department, right? The DA risk under DA terms, right? The importer, once the importer accept the bill for payment on the due date, and they will not do the payment. They will not do the payment. So if they don't do the payment, the only risk we are having, only obligation we are having as a collecting bank is to inform the remitting bank immediately. Immediately means on this immediately, not after 1 week or 3 days or 4 days. Immediately, that this guy has not paid. That's it. Other than that, bank doesn't have any obligations, right? In the DA payments, a lot of things can happen. The importer may be prepared to cheat the export. Can happen, right? The last payment method is irrevocable documented credit. Irrevocable documented credit. Right? Can you tell me another name for documented credit? The commonly used name? I think I have mentioned it several times. Ogula danna name එක?
LC.
LC. Danna name එක LC. Well, the correct word is DC, documented credit, right? Because it is based on document. Never mind if you use LC for your purpose to deal in the banking matters, it's perfectly all right, because your customers also get confused if you go and talk to them about DC, documented credit. Right? අම්බලන්තට හාදයෝගේයි මහත්තයා මේ මට මේ ඩොකියුමන්ට් ක්‍රෙඩිට් එකක් අරින්න නෙමෙයි මට ඕන LC එකක් අරින්න. ඒ ළමයි ඒ මිනිස්සු දන්නේ LC. හරි අපි මේක තමයි කරන්න දෙන්නේ අපි ඩොකියුමන්ට් ක්‍රෙඩිට් එක කියන්නේ ඒකමයි කියලා කිව්වට වැඩක් නැහැ. ඒ වගේ වෙලාවට the best thing is to give it to the customer. Right. LC එක. එක්ක එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කෙලින්ම LC කියලාම පටන් අරගෙන කතා කරගෙන යන්න. ලියනකොට පොඩ්ඩක් එහාට මෙහාට කරගන්න. නමුත් with the customer, your main problem is dealing with the customer. දන්න භාෂාවෙන් කතා කරන්න. Irrevocable document credit means irrevocable means cannot be changed without the consent of all parties concerned. Cannot be changed without the consent of all parties concerned. Buyer, seller, or banks, issuing bank, right? Okay. Irrevocable document credit, the definition is to pay a certain amount immediately or at a future date, provided that the stipulated documents are presented and undertaking from the importer's bank to the exporter, and only if the documents are in strict conformity with the DC. Only if the documents are in this strict conformity with the DC. Right? Earlier, 3 payment methods: open account, advance payment, and document collection. None of the payments, the banks are not giving any undertaking to pay. Here, the issuing bank of a LC will give an irrevocable undertaking to pay. Irrevocable undertaking to pay the exporter only if the documents are in strict conformity with the DC terms. If the documents are compliant, or in other words, documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC, we will pay. Right? The definition I have discussed with you. LCs are governed by ICC regulation, Uniform Customs and Practice for Document Credit. That is UCP. UCP. The current version is UCP 600. Uniform Customs and Practice for Document Credit. Collection among Kivinaika. Even the collection are governed by ICC regulations. ICC can International Chamber of Commerce regulation. For collections are governed by Uniform Rules for Collection. Uniform Rules for Collection. URC. The version is URC 522. URC 522 is the current version. Letters of credit. There are 2 common types in letters of credit. One is documentary and commercial. Or documentary or commercial. Documentary is one. Other one is standby. Right? Documentary or commercial letter of credit means active payment instructions, and then it's an active tool. That means normal LC is an active payment instruction in the sense, if the documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC, we will pay. That's it. Right? The standby LCs is a different thing. Standby LCs are very much similar to bank guarantees. So therefore, I am not going to discuss standby LCs now. When I am going to discuss the bank guarantees, then I will discuss with you regarding the standby letter of credit. Right? In standby letter of credit, it's a passive payment instrument. That means if the sorry, if the contract has not been fulfilled, if the contract has not been fulfilled, then you have to pay. Bank guarantee then when we issue bank guarantees, the banks will issue the bank guarantees. Branches, Dishan, I think you must be very familiar with bank guarantees. When we issue a bank guarantee, bank is given an undertaking. Okay, if everything goes smoothly, the bank guarantee will cancel on the maturity date or the expiry date. Otherwise, if there is a claim, then we will pay. If there is a claim, we will pay. It's a passive payment instrument, right? Based on the performance or financial or trade related or whatever that we are going to discuss under bank guarantees. And in trade, in LCs, we have an independence principle, right? This performance is separate from the contracts. Performance is separate from the contract, right? The buyer has an obligation to the issuing bank to pay upon claim for payment. If there's a payment we have to do, the buyer has an obligation to the issuing bank to pay upon claim for payment, right? Then the exporter and importer have a sales contract between them which supports the underlying transaction. Between the importer and the exporter, they have a contract of sale, and that governs the operation. But the payment is different from, separate from the contract. Nothing to do with the contract, right? The issuing bank has the obligation to the exporter. Hello? Did anyone wants to ask a question? Oh, sorry. Issuing bank has the obligation to the exporter to pay if he has complied with all the terms and conditions in the LC. Right? Nothing else. We don't worry about the contract. For is Dilishan there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Yeah, Dilishan, as a manager, I'll give you very important advice, right? Dilishan, sometimes your customers, import customers, export customers, right? They will come and try to discuss with you the contract between the exporter and the importer. You got my point, Dilishan? Listen to me very carefully. This is
Okay, sir.
This is where a lot of managers and frontline staff, especially the credit officers, they are the RMs with the customers. No, this is where they go wrong, and they are going to do a big damage to the bank. Sometimes millions if they sue the bank. Now the customers, if they want to open an LC and transaction and all, if they want to discuss with you, maybe ignorant, genuine customers, because they can't understand certain process and conditions and all, they are not bankers, no? So they will come and ask you, sir, when they make contract against them, may articles, article 8, 9, 10, it's sure, ne? Make a mukadda venda pulluang, araka make a kila, olangi, 100 pulluang. Olangi import customers la. කවදාක්වත් බලන්න එපා. කෙලින්ම කියන්න එපා අපිට ගන්නලා තියෙන්නේ මේ වල්ලන්නත් එපා කියලා මේවා වහ යනවා නෑ මේවා මේ මගේ වැඩක් නෙමෙයි කියලා. හරිද? ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කියන්න තියෙන්නේ between the buyer and the seller, the agreements, we have nothing to do as the bank. Right? මොකද මම දන්නවා experience එකෙන් මම දන්නවා අපේ ළමයි they go out of the way to help customers. ඊළ පඬිත වැඩත් කරනවා. මේවා ඔක්කොම explain කරලා කියන්න යනවා. Later, if there's something, well, this transaction can go wrong, no? ගියාට පස්සේ your importer will can sue the bank saying that so and so Dvishan is the one who gave me these instructions. He asked me to do like this. When I clarified things of my sales contract, he is the one who advised me. Now, what are you going to do? Not like those days, Dvishan, ape kale nang echchara tibunne naha. Now it is very, very risky because some customers, they are recording our conversations also. You know that, no? They are recording, right? ඔය වගේ කට්ට කස්ටමර්ස් ලා ඉන්නවා. එතකොට ඔය කළා අන්තිමට අපේ පිටේ යනවා. ඊට පස්සේ ඔන්න ඔයගලන්ගේ CEOs ලා දිමන්තයි මොකද එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ branch heads ලා මේ operation heads ලා right? Is it true? මම දන්නවා හොඳටම වෙන දේවල්. right? එතකොට අපි අමාරු වැටෙනවා. ඒකෙන්ද කවදාකවත් don't go and discuss the sales contract between the buyer and the seller. Let them handle it. If they can't understand, this is a legal document. Anyway, this is a legal document. You can politely tell them, sorry, this is a legal document. Better go and discuss it with your lawyers.
So, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, if you have any kind of experience, can you please just share with us? Because if it is a practical thing, it will be very helpful because you have had much experience.
Yeah, actually, I have not one, about 2-3 experiences of these, right? When I was working for Standard Chartered Bank also, one of my officers, in good faith, he has gone and discussed things. Later, the transaction went wrong. Then they put the blame to the bank. Luckily, we got escaped because there were no recordings or anything. He said, don't lie. Right? Don't try to put us into problem. You are lying. It's right. Word against word. Bankyane mein 90s will be. Now in 2021, 2020, different scenarios. Even over the phone, if they ask you certain things, it will get recorded in the phone. No? Yes, we know that. Right? You can use it as evidence. අපේ කාලේ evidence නැතුව අපිට find පුළුවන් කම තිබුණා. දැන් ඉතින් බෑ. ලොකු issues එනවා. ඕනම customer කෙනෙක් හොඳට යනකම් හොඳයි ඊට පස්සේ එල්ලෙන්න දෙයක් නැතුවම මොකක් කරේ එක එල්ලිලා එනවා. Because he doesn't want to take the damage, loss. He is trying to take us also into this. Because they know that if the bank is also getting involved, then bank has better lawyers, bank has money to defend us. If the bank defends, then customer will automatically defend. ඉතින් ඕක තමයි එන්නේ. right? ඒෂන් පරිස්සම් වෙන්න මේවා කතා කරන්න යන්න එපා.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Right. Parties to a documentary credit. Here the importer or the buyer is called as applicant. Okay? Because he is the one who is coming to the bank with the application. Right? Then the importer's bank is called issuing bank. The exporter's bank in exporter's country is advising bank, and the exporter's other banks optional is confirming bank, and the exporter is called as beneficiary. Right? These are the terminology as per UCP 600. Right? Don't worry about those things. You are not going to open LCs or anything. Just try to understand. And if you see the DC cycle, right? The beauty I'm going to tell you, you can compare it with collection. Between the buyer and the seller, buyer is called as applicant, right? Because he is the one who comes with the DC application field. Ek again branch eකට. DC application again branch eකට. Right? A application again you had they have a commercial contract between the buyer and the seller. So based on the commercial contract, the applicant will fill the DC application and he will bring it to the branch along with some evidence of the commercial contract, a summary of evidence of the commercial contract. What do you call that document? What do you call that document? They will come to you if you have any customers. We call it pro forma invoice. Pro forma invoice. So he will come, he will fill the DC application based on the pro forma invoice. Pro forma invoice is commercial contract. The important aspects. So that is why the buyer is called as applicant. Right? So he comes to the bank with the DC application. Your job as the branch people is to see that you are having the commercial contract, that is, sorry, a pro forma invoice and the DC application. At a glance, try to ensure that application is fully completed. Fill කරන්න තියෙන තැන් fill කරලා තියලා බලන්න. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට බලන්න තියෙන එච්චරයි. Because you are not going to open the LC. Right? Then only other thing that you have to do, Kasun and all this DFCC came crowd එකට මම කියන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලන්න ඕන pro forma invoice එකේ තියෙන goods වල මේ DC application එකේ දාලා තියෙනවා. Pro forma invoice එකේ තියෙන goods වල තියෙන්නේ. ඒ ටික බලන්න. ඒ ටික බැලුවා signature එක verify කළා. You send it to your head office. NDB head office. Right? That's what you do. එහෙම නේද වෙන්නේ? දේශන ඔයගොල්ලෝ යවනවා නම් එච්චරයිනේ කරන්නේ. You send the application to the head office. Huh?
Yes. Yes.
Right. Head office එකේ කාටද දෙවන්නේ? මංජුලටද කාටද? රසන්නටද ඔය ඉන්නවනේ කට්ටිය.
Prasanna, Manjula and all the other.
ඒ කට්ටිය ඉන්නවනේ කට්ටියට attention so and so කියලා LC opening office එකට යවනවා. ඒතර ඔයගලගේ පාර්ට් එක ඉවරයි. ඉතින් එහාට ඒගොල්ලෝ බලා ගන්න. හැබැයි ඔයා මේ DC application එක sign කරලාද නැද්ද කියන එකවත් බලන්න දෙවොත් then they will come back to you. Then they will return the application back to you. Then you have to call the customer again and ask him to sign. That is a bad thing. Then your credibility has gone for 6. Right? This is what you have to understand and this is what you have to check. The immediate ones. අස්සම් කරලා තියෙන කෙනෙක් අස්සම් කරන්න ඕන තැන් වල කස්ටමර් සිග්නේචර් ඔක්කොම ගහලා බලනවා. ඇප්ලිකේෂන් ඒ පැත්තයි මේ පැත්තයි තැන් දෙකක තියෙන අස්සම් කරන්න. ඒ ඔක්කොම අස්සම් කරලාද ප්‍රොෆෝම ඉන්වොයිස් එකේ තියෙන්නේ මේ මොනවාද මේ අම්බලන්තර පැත්තේ ගොඩක් කට්ටිය කරන්නේ මේ ඇග්‍රිකල්චර් මැෂිනරි කියලා කිව්වොත් ඇග්‍රිකල්චර් මැෂින් ට්‍රැක්ටර් එකක් හරි මොනවා හරි අර මේ කරන මැෂින් එකක් හරි මොනවා හරි එකක් ඒ මැෂින් එකක් ගේන්නේ. එක මැෂින් 10ක් විතර ගේනවා ට්‍රැක්ටර්ස් 10ක් ගේන්නේ. ප්‍රොෆෝම ඉන්වොයිස් එකේ තියෙන්නේ ස්කූටර්ස් 10ක් ගේන ප්‍රොෆෝම ඉන්වොයිස් එක. That's wrong. ඒක බලන්න ඕනේ මොනවද තියෙන්නේ. අතන 10ක් තියෙනවා. 10ට 10ට තිබ්බට මදි. You have to check the description of the goods is compatible with the DC application. After that, you give it to the issuing bank or the issuing department. Then they will issue the LC, number 3. They will issue the LC and they will advise to Taiwan or Korea or China. So advising bank is domiciled in beneficiary's country. Then they will advise the LC to the beneficiary. Now the beneficiary will go through the LC. They will read the terms and conditions. Based on the terms and conditions, they will manufacture the goods and ship the goods to the applicant. They will ship the goods to the applicant and then give the documents to the advising bank, or we call it negotiating bank now. Then the beauty is the negotiating bank, they have the LC copy or the original LC with them, which has been advised to them, and the customer has submitted the documents along with the LC copy. So they will check the documents against the LC conditions and terms and conditions of the LC. If the terms and conditions are complied with the LC terms and conditions, then we will negotiate. Negotiation means we can give immediate value to the beneficiary. No need to wait till the issuing banks gives you the money. Immediately the beneficiary can get the money. And then they will send the documents to the issuing bank. Issuing bank will debit the customer and give them the documents and reimburse the advising bank. Advising bank will deduct their charges and give the money to no, they will not give the money to beneficiary if they have already negotiated. If they have already negotiated, they will not give the money to the beneficiary because they have already given the money to the beneficiary. Any shortfall, yes, they will give. But if they have not negotiated, they will give the whole thing to the beneficiary, deducting their charges. Right? So the beauty is the negotiating bank can pay the beneficiary immediately if the documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC. And the other thing, the payment undertaking is given by the issuing bank, not by the applicant. Even if the applicant is not willing to pay, the issuing bank will pay. Issuing bank will pay. Right? Applicant එක බේරගන්න එක ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ වැඩ. Then when we advise letter of credit, the beneficiary will bear credit risk of the issuing bank, and the beneficiary bears the full country risk of the transaction and responsible for ensuring compliance. I think you can download these things and get a printout and keep it with you. Am I correct? So they have uploaded to the system, no?
Yes, we can, sir.
Yeah, you can, and download it and keep it, because these are very good things for you to refer, right? The role of advising bank and all, I'm not going to discuss about. Confirmation, confirm letter of credit. Nowadays, if you take Sri Lanka, nowadays our country is not in a very good situation in terms of foreign exchange. So we have a country risk. We don't have any bank risk. NDB bank, there's no risk. Your rating is good, but we have a country risk. Because of the country risk, the importer would like to have, the exporter, not the importer, the exporter, the other country, they would like to have a LC confirmed by a bank in their country itself. So they are not sure whether they will receive the money from Sri Lanka or not. Now everybody, most part of the world, they know that we are dragging the payments. It's a very bad thing. It's a very bad thing, right? We are ruining the country. You must have heard yesterday or day before, I saw a paper article, and it was in TV news also, we have foreign exchange reserves only for 3 months imports, sufficient only for 3 months imports. Earlier we had 1.5 years back, we had imports to sufficient for 5.5 months imports. It has reduced to 3 months. True, the government has to spend a lot of money on COVID operations, right? PCR kits, injections, and all those things. එතකොට අපේ foreign exchange එන්න බහැලා. ඒ විතර නෙමෙයිනේ තව ඉස්සරහට තවත් බහින්න දන්නේ because no politics for me. කියන්නේ නැත්තම ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැනගන්න ඕන. They are going to import 225 vehicles also. Then it will reduce 2.5 months. Right? Because of that, most of the banks in other countries, when they receive LCs from us, they want those LCs to be confirmed. That means by confirming a LC, the confirming bank, which is domiciled in exporter's country, will go into the same shoes of the issuing bank. That means they will also give an irrevocable undertaking to the beneficiary. Okay, if the documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC, if the issuing bank is not paying, we will pay. If the issuing bank is not paying, we will pay. Right? That's it. Then the exporter will be happy because he has got a guarantee from a bank domiciled in his country. ඒකට confirmation charges ගෙවන්න වෙනවා. ඒ confirmation charges කාගෙන්ද ආය කරගන්න කියන එක it's a issue, right? Whether it's buyer or seller, that they have to determine, and then we have to do like that. Okay? Confirmation නම් දැන් ලොකු issue එකක් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. හැම LC එකටම අපෙන් යන they want it to be confirmed. In some cases, they will put the charges to the buyer, the import itself. Import has to pay. If the exporter is more powerful, he will say no. I can remember long time back in 1990s, 92, 93 only kale, when I was a trade finance manager at Standard Chartered Colombo. One of my customers, David Pierce Motor Company, is a very famous one. Few years back, I have worked for them also. After my retirement, I did a consultation for them. Right? David Pierce, they were those days they were the agents for Ford vehicles, Ford cars, Ford cabs, double cabs, import kale. LC was opened by us, Standard Chartered Colombo, and the LC was advised and negotiated by Standard Chartered Nagoya. Nagoya is in Japan. Same bank, right? So the bank risk is not there. But even at that time, 92, 93 era, our country risk was very high because of the separatist war. 80 war එක කාලේ අපි හරිම high. So those people, Ford company, they are agents in Colombo is David Pierce. මේ වෙන අයට නෙමෙයි. ඔයාටයි මටයි නෙමෙයි වාහන ගෙන්නන්නේ. ඒජන්ට් යන්නේ. වාහන එකපාර containers ගණන් ගියන්නේ. ඒගොල්ලෝ කියන්නේ ඒ වැඩක් නෑ. These LCs has to be confirmed. We are not sure whether we can get the money or not. Right? And the charges are has to be borne by the import itself. So David Perry's motor company has to bear the confirmation charges. Of course, what they will do is they will pass it on to the customer. When they are pricing the selling price, they will add everything. Price will go up. That's a different question. Everything okay තමයි වෙන්නේ. දැන් අපේ මේ වුණත් අපි machine ගෙනාවත් මොන හරි ගෙනාවලා අපේ ඒක confirm වුණොත් ඒ එන charges ඒ charges වැඩි එනවා ඔක්කොම අපි තල්ලු කරනවා අපේ customer, right? But the confirmation is a very important thing. By confirming LCs, confirmation eliminates commercial credit risk of issuing bank and country risk of issuing bank. Right? Confirmed credit means payment obligations moves to the confirming bank and its country. Normally, in general, the payment obligation is with the issuing bank. This will move to the confirming bank. However, confirmation is location specific and verify country of confirming bank. Confirmation by branch or subsidiary of issuing bank may shift country risk and may not shift commercial risk. Confirmation, when you are adding confirmation, it's location specific. Each country has a certain rating. So confirmation charges will be determined by the rating. At the moment, our ratings are very low. So that means very high confirmation charges. Normally, confirmation charges are 0.5% to 1%, 2% tamai venne. But sometimes it can go up to 4%, 5%. Frankly, I don't know what is our confirmation charge when it comes to Sri Lanka. Right? Payment methods, letter of credit, see it upright with the meeting. Make deal 20 points of negotiation in structuring your LC. Right? So this is important for, that is why I have mentioned, this is important for the branch people. Like Dilishan, Kasul, the customers are directly contact. If they come with the LC application, keep this as a guideline. Keep this as a guideline. Make a standard NDB bank LC application again. Then on top, they have mentioned irrevocable, nothing to worry. It is subject to UCP 600 right? Issue date, expiry date, location, customer issuing bank, issuing bank in NDB, advising bank NDB trade day, right? Import, export, and antika harita addresses, value and currency, description of goods, services. 20 points I have given for you to check, right? For your easy reference. What to do when the LC arrives? I'm not going to discuss this with you because you are not going to see the LCs arrived. It will be handled by Trade Finance Department, right? When various types of LCs are there, revolving LCs, red clause LCs, standby, transferable, and back-to-back documentary credits. Back-to-back documentary credits. So I don't think I have time to discuss these things. If I have time, I will try to discuss few. Anyway, standby LCs, we are going to discuss when I'm discussing the guarantees, bank guarantees, right? Revolving, I don't think you will get much red clauses in there. Transferable letter of credit, also sometimes you might get, but you have to be very careful with back-to-back documented credit. Back-to-back documented credit it will be opened by your trade finance department, but the credit part will come to NDB Ambalam. Manager has to set up the limits. Manager has to set up the limit, right? Then, or the credit officer and manager has to set up the limits. Are you going to open back-to-back documented credits? That's a $1 million question. My advice to you is try to avoid as much as possible. Try to avoid as much as possible, right? In my banking career, I have opened easily more than 100,000 of LCs. 100,000 are very adune, right? Laksakata very my LCs are not there. But in my career, I have opened only 20 to 25 back-to-back LCs. Just imagine the percentage. 20 or 25 against 100,000. So I'm very, very careful because back-to-back documented rate is only a piece of paper. Customer will tell you, I have received a confirmed order. So based on this confirmed order, please give me a facility, set up a facility to open a LC. So the collateral or the security you are going to have is the back-to-back LC. We call it master LC. Then based on the master LC, we are going to open the baby LC. Baby LC. Master LC workout way than for me, it's just a piece of paper, right? So therefore, I can give you enough and enough incidents where back-to-back LCs have gone wrong. I'll try to cover few next week when I'm discussing the risk involved in international trade. මම හිතේදී මතක් කරන්න. මට මගේ අතෙන් මිස් වුණොත් කවුරු හරි කෙනෙක් මට මතක් කරන්න. So what about the risk of opening back-to-back LCs? Right? ඒක මට මතක් කරන්න. එතකොට මම ඒකත් අල්ලලම කතා කරනවා. Okay? Right. And these international trade operations are governed by ICC rules I have mentioned. I have given you for UCP 600 for LCs and URC 522 for collections. Right? Right. I think I have done the introduction to trade and why some sort of trade knowledge is important to you guys, because try to keep the trade customers with you as much as possible, right? Try to keep the trade customers with you because they are the people who will give you revenue. That revenue is on various this thing as mentioned by me at the beginning. Why banks like doing trade operations? Because in one transaction, when you open a DC, we get issuing commission, SWIFT charges, advising charges, negotiating charges, discrepancy fees, forex commission, and if not anything else, handling charges. Right? මට මතකයි මම මේ I'm handling petroleum LCs. Cipetco petroleum LCs, Petroleum Corporation. Those LCs are massive LCs, $1 million, $2 million. Now it must be much higher than that. I'm talking about those days. A $1 million, $2 million LC का carry होत. मगे LCA एक LCA के revenue का मटा है ना 1.8 million rupees. 1.8 million. That is $2 million. $2 million. That 400 million rupees. 400 million rupees. 400 million rupees or LC value again. Not a 1.8 million revenue. Mainly non-funded income. Fee base. Right? So what else? If they have asked for import loan, that will go much above that. Right? Right. Then I am going to move very tight program. Right? Very tight program. Now I am going to move to the documents used in import and export procedures. Right? Documents used in import-export procedures. Normally, the documents seen in correction and other documents, one girl asked this question, bill of exchange, to explain a little bit, no? How they have you mugging it?
Madhushani.
Huh?
Madhushani.
Madhushani, right. Sunset Development, no?
No, sir. State Bank of India.
State Bank of India. State Bank of India, right? Then I'm going to discuss with you certain commercial documents, commercial invoice, package list. Just, I'm not going in detail, introduction, awareness, insurance documents and transport documents, right? Bill of exchange. When it comes to bill of exchange, in Sri Lanka, still our bill of exchange is based on Bill of Exchange Act 1882 of UK. Bill of Exchange Act 1882 of UK. සුද්දගේ කාලේ තිබුණ ඇක්ට් එකක් තමයි මේක තියෙන්නේ. Right? Then it was amended in 1927, then again amended in 1951 also, and recently also there was an amendment. But the base is Bill of Exchange Act 1882. The definition of a bill of exchange is a bill of exchange is an unconditional order in writing. Unconditional order in writing. Addressed by one person. Addressed by one person, the drawer. Drawer is the one who is preparing the bill of exchange. Right? Addressed by one person to another, drawee. He is demanding money from drawee. Signed by the drawer. Signed by the drawer. Requiring the person to whom it is addressed. That means drawee to pay on demand or at a fixed or determinable future date a certain sum in money toward to the order of a specified person, the payee or bearer. Apart from the bill of exchange or the draft we used in international trade operations, can somebody tell me another banking instrument that is governed by Bill of Exchange Act?
Checks.
Checks. Normal checks. Normal checks are governed by Bill of Exchange Act. They are also, check is signed by the drawer, who is the owner of that, right? To another, pay Madhushani, right? And signed by the drawer. Check is drawn by that guy, right? මේකම තමයි අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන් චෙක් එක. In international trade, this is a sample bill of exchange, right? The sample bill of exchange. Bill of exchange or draft is a written order by the drawer to the drawee to pay money to the payee. To pay money to the payee, right? The Mama Isla Cupitic Aran Dambana Bill of Exchange. It's dated London 31st January. The amount is 250,000. Specified amount. To pay 60 days after sight, not immediately. After you see the bill, 60 days after sight, pay. Right? 250,000 US dollars, 250,000 in words and figures. Just like a check. Right? And it is drawn by James Smith, director, the UK export company, exporter. John Smith is the drawer. On drawee, since it was a LC bill, right? LC kakinda eka ape Singapore Import Banking Company, Bank Street, Singapore. Egulan තමයි පෙත් මේ ගන්න කස්ටමර් පේයි ගෙන්නේ මේ ඇප්ලිකන්ට් ගෙන්නේ මේ අපි ඉල්ලන්නේ කෙලින්ම බැංක් එකෙන් සල්ලි. Right? Another commercial document is commercial invoice. This is a sample commercial invoice, right? The big seller. Normally, the commercial invoice is prepared by the seller. Commercial invoice is prepared by the seller, right? Pro forma invoice is also prepared by the seller. Pro forma invoice is only a rough one. Based on that only, we will do the export, and the final invoice is the commission invoice, right? So big seller is a company, and here they will issue the LC made out in the name of applicant, made out in the name of the applicant, the prime buyer, right? When you see the big seller, it appears to have been issued by the beneficiary. Okay, මේ second beneficiary කියනවා අතහැරලා දාන්න. මොකද ඔයගොල්ලෝ first beneficiary second beneficiary කියන එක මේක වෙන මම වෙන program එකකට මේ ළමයිට higher diploma එකේ ළමයින්ට කරකෝල උගන්වන ඒවා. හරිද? නමුත් මේකට දැන්ට ගන්න මේ seller is appears to have been issued by the beneficiary. Beneficiary is the seller. Then made out in the name of the applicant. And then mode of shipment, shipment from port go, shipment to Dreesport, right? Then they talk about the payment terms, 60 days after shipment date, under DC number, blah, 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 issued by the Import Finance Bank, Pool City, right? Then description of goods also has to be there. Commercial invoice, 2,000 briefcases, Hancock brand, as per our pro forma invoice, right? So the description is to correspond to LC, right? The LC description is black color, Hancock brand, briefcases, total 2,000 pieces, CPT Dreesport, Incoterms 2010. මේක තමයි දීලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් මේක අපි දාලා තියෙනවා description එක අර ගානේ බොහොම මේකට කිට්ටු එකක් තියෙන්නේ 2000 briefcases Hancock brand, important information we have given, and we have given as per pro forma invoice, right? Then the amount to indicate the value and the currency, US dollar 50,000. Right? Okay. And the normally invoice has to be signed, but it is not a must. If the LC says signed invoices, yes, then it has to be signed. If the LC says commercial invoice, 2 copies, then even if you are not signed the commercial invoice, no issue, right? But if it says signed commercial invoice, yes, then you have to sign, right? මේවා මම කරන්නේ උගන්ට එන්නේ නැහැ. මේවා ට්‍රේඩ් එකටමයි යන්නේ. But just an awareness. What are these documents? Bill of lading. When you load the ship, the shipper will issue this bill of lading. Right? It's a receipt for receiving the goods to the ship. And it's a negotiable document. It's a title document. You can endorse it and pass the ownership to another party. Right? Leisurely, you can go through the sample to see loading port, unloading port, right? Description of goods, everything is there. The BL should carry an onboard notation, right? Etika may make a very worry in the pound. The main parties involved in the bill of lading are shipper, the person who sends the goods, consignee, the person who take delivery of the goods, that's bank. If it is collection, import, right? Notifying party, if we have to notify the shipper for conveyance of goods. Make a transport කරන්න කවුද මේ agreement එක ගැහුවේ කියන එක තමයි ඒ carrier. Multimodal bill of lading, I'm not going to discuss with you, just for information. Multimodal means more than one mode of transport. More than one mode of transport. Covering more than one mode of transport. Like if you are bringing goods from Belgium to Colombo, Belgium have a port, so they have to take the goods to the nearest port. Must be in a different country, maybe Norway or Germany, right? The first leg again by truck. First leg maybe by truck from Belgium, Brussels to the Germany port, right? Then from the German port to Colombo by ship. The entire transport is covered by one bill of lading. We call it multimodal bill of lading. More than one mode of transport, right? Okay. Insurance documents. Insurance documents. You all must have seen, said at least some insurance document, your own insurance document. Even forget about trade finance ones. If you have a vehicle, your insurance document. If you have a life insurance document, right? Like that. Yeah. It's a marine cargo insurance policy. Always it should be a marine cargo insurance policy, right? To the order of the insured party, the big buyer, the vessel winter sailing on or about 30th June. So it covers everything, right? Normally, the insurance policy should be 110% of the CIF value. 110% of the cost insurance rate value, CIF value, right? That's a minimum. Above that, yes, you can. Okay. This is only a sample of the documents, right? I don't think you are going to see any of these documents because all these documentations are handled at your trade finance, respective trade finance departments. Then on top of that, you get another set of documents. We call it packing list, how you have packed, weight list, what are the weight of the packages, the total gross weight, the net weight, right? How you have packed, all this. Two different things. Packing list is how you have packed, whether it's in crates or in containers, like that. Whether it's cardboard cartons, how you have packed. In a box, how many? The weight is also each box, how much of weight and the gross weight of all the boxes into thing. Sometimes you might ask for the beneficiary certificate to confirm certain things, right? Now, when it comes to beneficiary certificate, now when it comes to packing list or weight list, again the signature is not a must. Signature is not a must. But if you have asked for certified packing list or certified weight list, certified, then signature is a must. Now, like that, beneficiary certificate. If beneficiary is issuing some certificate, then it has to be signed. Need to be signed, right? Why? Because it is a certificate. Now, for example, Deshan, your birth certificate, is it signed by somebody?
No, it's not, sir.
It's not
I
signed?
think
It's not signed? My goodness.
I can't.
Then better ask for a new one then. Always birth certificate is signed by the registrar of birth, has to sign, right? Just go back and get your birth certificate and see. Your marriage certificate, is it signed?
Yes, it is. No.
It is signed. ආගේ සිග්නේචර් එක තරගෙන වයිෆ් ගේ තරගෙන තියෙනවා නේද? කියන්නේ අර බෙල්ල තියලා පෝරකේට දක්කන දෙන්නගෙත් ගහලා තියෙනවා. ඒ දෙන්නත් සයින් කරලා රෙජිස්ට්‍රාරු සයින් කරනවා. Otherwise it is not valid. Right? Is a death certificate, not yours, huh? Is a death certificate is valid without the signature of the registrar of death? No. So that means every certificate, if it is a certificate, signature is a must. Signature is a must. අනිත් ඒවට නැතුණට certificate කරනවා නම් somebody has to certify, right? The analysis, inspection, health certificates, all certificates need to be signed, right? We might ask for analysis certificates if it's chemicals and all, inspection certificates, health certificate, phytosanitary. Phytosanitary means fit for human consumption. Phytosanitary. If you are importing milk food and all, we have to get a phytosanitary certificate, right? If it's fit for human consumption. නැත්නම් නිව්සීලන්ත වල මෙහාට එනකොට නිව්සීලන්ත වල බල්ලන්ට දෙන කිරි ටික අපිටයි වයි. නිකම්ම phytosanitary certificate එකක් නැත්තම්, right? Okay. And certificate of origin. Certificate of origin means where the goods are being the origin of the goods. Goods are of Malaysian origin. Right? It's very important. Sometimes they will ask the Chamber of Commerce of that country to certify. Normally, certificate of origins are issued by Chamber of Commerce. Right? We need. Now, for example, if you want to buy a Nokia phone, original Nokia phone, you should ask for a certificate of origin of which country? Original Nokia phone. Where the grand? Either Finland or Hungary. Either Finland or Hungary. Nokia phone. Here and Nokia phones, manufactured by Chinese, Taiwan, Malaysia, India, then Dubai, Ghana. Dubai. So many countries. Apita Nokia, Ontara Nokia Ghana. Even Nokia නෙමෙයි. Duplicate original Nokia නෙමෙයි. If it is original Nokia, you should ask for a certificate of origin. Or again a certificate of Chinese origin. Then we know it is not the origin. Right? Mega are important international trade operations. Right? Okay. Now, any questions on trade documents? Only thing, don't worry about what is in there and details and all. At least you should have an awareness. These are the documents you will come across here. Right? Certificate of origin, certificate, then analysis certificate, health certificate, beneficiary certificate, packing list, wait list, insurance, right? Then transport documents, BL, commercial invoice, bill of exchange. Right? Okay. That's a look area we'll have to cover. Just see now, I have finished the objectives out of the objective introduction to international trade, 4 payment methods and trade documents and their key features for both the customers and banks perspective. Documentary credits. Right? Api hitwata 1, 2, 3, 4 areas kalatina. Now I am going to discuss about the Incoterms and its meaning and implication for customers and bankers. If I can finish it today, then we are on target. Right? Then next week, I will discuss with you very, very important thing, very, very important regulations governing foreign trade, risk associated with international trade, very important for bankers, very important, especially for credit officers, very important, bank guarantees, and if possible, financing options. Right? So I'll be moving to the last session of today, Incoterms 2020. Incoterms 2020. Can you see the presentation? Can you see the presentation? Hello?
Yes, sir, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay. Today, මම question එකක් තප්පරයක්වත් පමා වෙන්න එපා. ඒ තප්පරේ හරි වටිනවා මට. මම ඔයගලන්ගේ උත්තරේ එනකන් ඉන්නවා කියන්නේ තව අපි එන්න හිර වෙනවා. Okay. What is Incoterms? What is Incoterms? Right? You must have heard about this. Incoterms stand for International Commercial Terms and are rules for the interpretation of terms and terms of delivery and not of other terms of the contract of sale. right? International commercial terms are the rules for the interpretation of terms of delivery and not of other terms of the contract of sale, right? Before I proceed, I would like to, since there are some people, Divishan, of course, more than 5 years in banking, and you are a manager, you are eligible without any concerns. The other people who are participating, if you are either managers or officers, or even BAs, over 5 years experience in banking, and with at least IBSL part 1 or something, right? Try to follow the postgraduate executive diploma in bank management, right? Anybody has done that course? Anybody has done that course? Especially Dveshan Vahanam Karana Venopate, what Harisho, what Sampurima, that's we cover everything, even credit, lending, then we cover all the parts, right? And there I am handling the international trade part. It's about 12 4-hour classes. So we are doing much more than this is. We are tight for the timing. අරවගේ දෙයක් ඉතින් අපිට හොඳට කතා කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන්. right? පුළුවන් තරම් කට්ටිය ඉගෙන ගන්න. පුළුවන් තරම් ඉගෙන ගන්න. right? මම ඒකයි කියන්නේ ඉගෙන ගත්ත විදිහට තමයි ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ජීවිතය හදාගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. මම තාම ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. මම තාම daily මොන හරි එකක් කියවලා මගේ knowledge එක මම update කරගන්නවා. Even at my age, right? At least I want to update my knowledge. You are young guys, so now you have to get your qualifications. CV එක වැඩි කරගන්න ඕන. CV එක strong කරගන්න ඕන. ඒක කරගත්තා නම් හොඳයි. Right. The Incoterms stand for International Commercial Terms and are the rules for the interpretation of terms of delivery and not of other terms of the contract of sale. Now, when after the First World War, that was from 1960 to 1919, right? Then after the First World War, most of the countries were in shambles, right? They have gone through the war and they have lost, their economy has gone down and they were trying to come up, right? Then they want to improve international trade operations and all those things. And then between the countries, there were a lot of arguments and fights. That is why they have introduced UCP, Uniform Customs and Practices, LCs, UCP. UCP was first introduced in 1933. UCP was first introduced in 1933. And then, after that, we thought, okay, now we have given articles and guidelines for the customers to handle international trade. Now we thought, no more fighting. No. Still, there were a lot of fighting. Then the problem was regarding the terms of delivery. Who should deliver? Is it buyer or seller? Who should book the carriage? Who should pay the insurance? Who should do what? Who should do what? That was another fighting. So in 1936, ICC, International Chamber of Commerce, they introduced Incoterms, International Commercial Terms, right? As a rule for interpretation of terms of delivery, right? This is a set of 11 trade terms used in contracts for sale and purchase of goods. And 11 trade terms. Google done no, but I'm just trying to give you some insight. Incoterms are not law. It's only a guidance. It's only a guidance, right? It described the obligation, risk and cost of each risk and cost of each party, right? Then what do Incoterms cover? What do Incoterms cover? Incoterms are in fact key elements of international contract of sale, and they tell the parties what to do with carriage of the goods from seller to buyer, export and import clearance, explain the division of cost and the risk between the parties, right? Explain the division of cost and risk between the parties. Those are the things covered by the Incoterms. What Incoterms do not cover, they do not automatically apply. They must be specified. You can't, Incoterms are not automatically applied. Before going further, can not Dilshan has been knowing about these things. Others, can somebody tell me one or two Incoterms which you have heard with your knowledge? Only the abbreviation ekmana yatimana.
CIF.
Very good, very good, very good.
FR.
Is that huh?
CFR.
CFR. Thank you very much. Is that Madhushan? Is it?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Good. Then that one, I had another one. කතා කරනකොට මගේ ඔළුවේ වටිනා කවුද කියන එක. Very good. CIF, CFR, FOB, right? So you have to mention that in the LC or the transaction or the contract. In the contract, you have to mention. So automatically, right? There is nothing on ownership, title to the goods, detail on payment obligations, when, how, what security against what documents. Incoterms, right? When detailed vessel requirement, it says FOB, free on board, so it's a vessel. C, transportation by sea, CIF, CFR, by sea, right? හැබැයි ඒක කියන්නේ මොන වගේ වෙසල් එකක්ද කියලා. එක්ස්ප්‍රස් පර්ල් වගේ එකක්ද? කියන්නේ මගේද ගිනි ගන්න එකක්ද? උපුරන එකක්ද කියන අපි උගත් කියන්නේ. Right? එක කව වෙන්නේ. But it says a vessel. Right? Force measure. What is force measure? It's a French word. Force measure is acts of God. They do not cover the acts of God. What do you mean by acts of God? Tsunami, earthquakes, floods, right? Those are even COVID-19. We don't have any control. These are acts of God. Right? COVID-19 දාන්න පෙර ඒක අපේ වැරද්ද හින්දා we can't control, right? මට කියුණාට එක මම correct කරනවා. අපේ තියෙන ගොංකම් වලට අපි control කරන්න බැරුණාට control කරන්න පුළුවන්. But tsunami, earthquakes, typhoons, then what are the name? Eruption of volcanoes. Those are acts of God. Termination of the contract is not covered. And the insolvency of the party. Insolvency. Bankrupt නම් ඒක cover වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right? And there are 12 Incoterms, 11 Incoterms, and the Incoterms were changed, revised in 2020. Every 10 years, it is getting revised. Every 10 years. Earlier it was Incoterms 2000, then 2010, now 2020. Right? So in short, Incoterms do not constitute a complete contract of sale, but rather provide convenient, internationally recognized rules for the sale of goods. Right? Why they are important? They reduce the uncertainty caused by trade practices in different countries, simplify the negotiations involved in international commerce. We all are doing the same thing, ensure common understanding of obligations. Right? Make either Haridra Incoterms of Depanan. Since I am in the business, I know it is very difficult to do trading with Chinese guys, culprits. These are the Incoterms 20. Right? These Incoterms, there are 11 Incoterms where we can categorize into two categories. One category is rules for any mode or modes of transport. That means sea, inland waterways, airway, any mode of transport. One is ex-work, free carrier, carriage paid to, CIP means carriage and insurance paid to, DDP, delivered duty paid, DPU, delivered at place, unloaded, DAP, delivered at place. Delivered at place, unloaded, that was a new Incoterm introduced in 2020. Unloaded. That's the only Incoterm that talks about after delivering, they will unload and give it to the beneficiary, buyer. Unload and give it to the buyer. Right? Delivered at place, unloaded. Anithya unload වෙන්නේ නැහැ. The money DPU and DAP both are delivered at place, but DAP just delivered at place. ගේලා බට් එක බාර දුන්න නැතෙන්ට එච්චරයි. Unload කරන්නේ. But DPU is unloaded. And there are 4 rules only for sea and inland waterway transport. What do you mean by inland waterway? There are in certain countries, even there are inland waterways where ships are sailing, like River Nile, local ships and River Seine in Paris, ships are sailing, right? Seine Nadi, now we are not, right? ඒවත් අපි ගන්නේ Incoterm sea and inland waterway transport. Those are FAs, free alongside ship, right? FOB, free on board, CFR, cost and freight, and CIF, cost insurance and freight. So 4 are under sea and inland waterway, and 7 are others for any mode of transport. මේකේ මම ඔයගොල්ලොත් එක්ක මම කරන්න යන්නේ common ones විතරයි. CIF, CFR, FOB, FAs ඒ ටික කරන්න වෙනවා. And ex-work and CIP. Right? බලමු අපි පුළුවන් තරම් අවශ්‍යම ටික මම ඔයගොල්ලොත් එක්ක කරන්න බලන්න. Right. Formal creation of two classes of Incoterms. One is deliveries by any mode or modes of transport, monkey, sea, road, rail, air, multimodal, X-work, FCA, CPT, CIP, DAP, DPU, and DDP. Right? Etika, Etika. Then the one is deliveries by sea and inland waterways, FH, FOB, CFR, and CAM. Right? Etika anta mataya tiyaganna as bankers that can help you. The steps of global logistics, if I immediately go through it, the manufacturer, they will manufacture the goods and they do the packing and then they load it to the containers or lorries. And then if you say a garment factory in Mayangana, they will manufacture the goods, garments, and then they pack it. Ambalatara පැත්තේ තියෙනවා garment factories. And then garment factories once they මයංගන ඕනේ නැහැ අපි අම්බලන්තොට්ට මේකෝ ඕනතරම් garment factories තියෙනවා අපි ඒවයි මේක හදලා ඒක pack කරලා then they load it to lorries or containers and then it will bring to the port, either the Mattala either Mattala port, airport or Hambantota port, right? Or Colombo, whatever, right? And then they have to go through the customs clearance for exports, right? And then handling outbound. Then they have to get a main international transportation, ship or aircraft, right? And they have to insure the goods and then send the goods to the buyer's country. When it comes to the buyer's country, that's handling inbound. Then in the buyer's country, the goods have to go through the customs clearance duty, and then custom clearance. Then they have to pay duty, and then the goods will be released. After that, they have to take the goods to the final destination. They will take the goods to the final destination and then unload it. This is the general steps of global logistics, right? For information. Now we'll see one of the mostly commonly used Incoterms. I'm not going to discuss all 11. I will discuss some common ones which you may come across on a regular basis. One is X-work. X-work means the customer, the manufacturer or the seller will manufacture the goods and he will keep the goods in the warehouse, in his warehouse. If the buyer wants to buy, he has to go to the seller's warehouse and then buy it. Right? But X-work වලට එක example එකක් කියන්නේ ලංකාවේ අපි domestic trade වල X-work වලට එක example එකක් කියන්න මම කවුරුරි What about going to Bengal and Nani? Gold cement factory, තියෙනවද Grishan? Runu cement?
Sorry, sir, I don't have any idea about any update on that.
Yeah, even I can't remember. Earlier, Runu cement was one of my customers. My customer, Yashoda, and after that they sold it to somebody, and then sellers, sorry, example, Putlam cement factory, right? So if you want to buy a lorry load of cement, right, you can go to Putlam cement factory and then buy the thing and then bring it to your stores or your house or whatever, right? Rather than buy it from the hardware shops, right? Even I have done that when I was building one of my houses. I mean, those days there was a shortage of cement, so we had to get a permit and then go to Putlam and buy it. Lorry load that up again, right? That is X work, right? So deliver the goods at the disposal of the buyer at the named place. That named place is either works or warehouse or factory. The buyer has to go there and inspect the goods and then pay, then finish. So seller's job is very, very limited. His only job is to manufacture the goods and to put it in packing. Cement cement bags again, right? Then the buyer's primary duty is to take delivery of the goods when they have been. After you pay, cement factory will give you the cement. Then it is up to you to make arrangements at your own cost and risk to bring the goods to the destination. Right? You have to hire a vehicle, lorry, and then you have to bring it. Right? Now, if I do a graph like this, now goods and sellers, everything, this is the critical point. That is, first critical point is at the warehouse. The goods will be there at seller's risk and seller's cost. After that, buyer will come and pay. After that, it will be buyers. So they have to, in Incoterms, we are talking about three carriage types. One is pre-carriage, main carriage, and on carriage. Pre-carriage is from the warehouse of the seller to the ship, up to the port of the exporter ship. That is pre-carriage. Then the main carriage is sea or air, the main carriage from Colombo to Pakistan. That's the main carriage. From Putlam to Colombo port, it's a pre-carriage, right? Then it will be unloaded in Karachi port, and then from Karachi port to the importer's warehouse, that is on carriage. Okay, so in X work, our only problem is we will be looking after the first part, right? So critical points: carriage to be arranged by the buyer. The risk is transferred to the buyer when the goods are placed at his disposal. So once you pay, it is transferred to the buyer, right? Transferred from the seller to the buyer when the goods are at the disposal of the buyer, right? Now, when you go to in a domestic trade, when you go to buy goods from a supermarket, when you go to buy goods from a supermarket, you buy goods and you bring it, you collect it from the shelf. You collect it from the shelf and bring it to the cashier. You will select, and you bring it to the cashier. Then the cashier will pay. You have to pay the cashier, and then the cashier will give you the goods. From that point, you have to take the goods to your residence. Right? It is up to you how you are going. whether you are going to get into a three-wheeler or you have your own vehicle, right? That is up to you. Okay? හැබැයි මෙතන දෙකක් තියෙනවා. In the supermarket එකේදී, okay, if you are buying with other groceries, you are buying eggs. Eggs උත් අරගෙන දැන් අපි eggs උත් bag එකකට දාලා සිල්සිල් bag එකකට දාලා ලස්සන container එකක් නෙවෙයි යා container තිනවට වදින්න නැතුව තියනවා නඩු ගානේ. ඒවා තියෙන්නේ ලොකු high-fi supermarket වලින්. අපි තුම ගමේ supermarket එකක් කියලා මේ සිල්සිල් bag එකේ දාගෙන බිත්තර ටිකක් අරන් එනවා. එනකොට අපේ පිරිමි ළමෙක් ඕක අරන් වනවන එනකොට තවත් කවුරුර ගෑනු ළමයෙක් දැකලා ඒකේ දිහා බලන් ආවිලා වදිනවා මේක තව යකඩ ෂෙල්ෆ්ස් වල වදිනවා. විතර 10න් විතර 4ක් විතර කැඩිලා. Who has to bear the loss? The buyer or seller? මෙන්න මේවා තමයි determine කරන්නේ. දැන් Incoterms වල මම ලොකුට Incoterms කතා කරාට මේ චූටි example එකකින් you can understand. Who has to bear the loss? Buyer or seller? තාම සල්ලි ගෙවි නෑ. Buyer. හැබැයි සල්ලි නොගෙවුවට when is the critical point? Once you pay the money, then it will be the buyers. But here, the moment you take the goods out of the shelves, then it is buyers. Right? And never ඔය වගේ ඔයා හිතලා ගන්න. ඔගොල්ලෝ හිතුවාම ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙනවා. Right? Okay. There's another easy way to understand. X-work, seller, may X-work එකේ seller ට වෙනකන් ඔක්කොම එන්නේ seller's cost. Brown color seller's cost. Then the blue color is buyer's cost. Pre-carriage, then booking the carrier, loading the carrier, then paying the carriage charges, then unloading, everything buyer, right? FCA, free carrier. Free carrier is another one. This is very common now. That's why I took this, right? This term may be used irrespective of mode of transport. Any mode of transport. Free carrier, right? Selected and may be used where more than one mode of transport is used. Right? This is a very, very important thing. ඔගොල්ලෝ ගොඩාක් කස්ටමර්ස් ලට ඇඩ්වයිස් කරන්න ඕන එක කේස් එකක් තියෙනවා. මම දන්නේ ට්‍රේඩ් එකේ සමහර කට්ටියට දන්නේ නැහැ මේවා. But before they go to the trade, they will meet you. So you should have some idea. If you can advise a customer properly, they will be very happy. And, when the place of delivery is an inland point, Incoterms 2020 allows the buyer to instruct the carrier to issue a bill of lading. Then FCA KD, now again, now I can take Ambalantota example. Ambalantota, you have garment factories. Ambalantota, you have garment factories. So your customer has got a order from Marks and Spencer, UK. So then what they will do is, I have seen, and you also must have seen, containers ඇවිල්ලා ඒ garment factories ගාව නෝර්ත්වල ඉන්නවා එක දවසකට Thursdays වගේ දවස්වලට දිගටම පාරවල් දෙකේ තියෙනවා. So one by one goes into the factory and they load it, right? Garments ගොඩක් වෙලාවට load කරන්නේ if you say blouses, skirts, then especially ladies garments, right? They don't put it to bags, boxes වල දාන්නේ. ඒවා hangers වල එල්ලනවා. ලොකු hangers තියෙනවා. ඒ hanger දැන් කඩේ තියෙන showrooms වල තියෙන hangers වලවත් තමයි එල්ලන්නේ. ඒ වගේ එල්ලනවා. එල්ලලා the custom officer will come to the factory and he will supervise what are they loading. He supervise and he make a note, right? And he will charge duty according to that, right? So these people are loading or hangers තමයි commanding. Hangers ගිහලා ඔය දිගේ දානවා. කවදාකවත් blouses එහෙම නවන්නේ නැහැ. ඒවා එහෙමම hanger එකේ එල්ලලා තියෙන hangers වලින්. දිග මේ racks වල යනවා. ඒ racks වලින් ගිහලා load කරලා ඉවරනට පස්සේ they will seal the container. They put a lock and then container will be sealed. Then it will be taken to Hambantota Airport. At Hambantota Airport also, you get just before the Hambantota Airport or airport. I'm sorry, airport Hambantota seaport. Hambantota seaport. Hambantota seaport. එහෙම නැත්නම් මත්තල airport එක. ගාව තියෙනවා container yards. Right? There's container yards. You go and keep the containers in the container yard. Up to that point, it is seller's responsibility. It is seller's responsibility to keep it in the container yard. Then the buyer has to book the carriage. The buyer has to book the carriage, and then they will instruct the port or the freight forwarders to load the containers to the ship. Load the containers to the ship or the aircraft, whatever. Right? And then take to the destination. That is why in Codam 2020 allows the buyer to instruct the carrier to issue a bill of lading with onboard notation. Right? It's an optional mechanism, so you don't have to worry about those things. But FCA is very, very important. Right? Then you can see this one. Earlier one, the brown color was only up to the seller. Now it's loaded and it is in the container yard, either Hambantota or Urugudatta. In Colombo, Urugudatta container yard. Then from there, they will ship it. Right? From there, they will ship it. Okay. The importance in free carrier is unlike some other FOB, CFR වගේ ඒවා එනකොට සමහරලාට ඔයගලන්ට කස්ටමර් ගෙනේවි perform invoice එක FOB කියලා. But containerized cargo. If it is containerized cargo, you have to advise the customer, don't use FOB. The correct Incoterm should be free carrier, FCA. Free carrier is the correct listing. Otherwise, free on board means up to the boarding of the goods on the vessel, right? Up to the boarding of the goods on the vessel, it is the responsibility of the seller. Now here, once you load it at your warehouse or factory, and then when you go and place it at the container yard, then your responsibility is over. After that, the buyer has to take over the responsibility. See the difference? So in between, if something has happened, if it is FOB, then your customer is responsible. Seller, your customer is responsible. But if they have used the correct Incoterm FCA, then they are not responsible. The buyer is responsible, right? Just try to study more, and if you have any, if you need any more clarifications, next week I'll give you my phone number. If you have any issues, please call me, right? මට මම ඕනතරම් මට බ්‍රාන්ච් මැනේජර්ස්ලා දවසකට 3-4 දිනක් වරද්දන්නෙම නෑ කතා කරනවා. වරද්දන්නෙම නෑ. Because especially NDB එහෙම නම් භාගයට භාගයක් බ්‍රාන්ච් මැනේජර්ස්ලා මම ගෝලෙ ඉන්නේ ඔක්කොම වගේ. ඉතින් කෙලින්ම කෝල් කරන සර් මෙහෙම ප්‍රශ්නක් තියෙනවා සර් බෝධ වේග සර් ගන්න. right? එතකොට අපි හරි දේ වන්ට කියලා දෙනවා. අපි ඉතින් ළමයින්ට කියලා දෙන එක තමයි මගේ වැඩේ. දැන් මේ තින්දී ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඔළුවට ගන්නව නම් හරියටම හරි. ඇයි මගේ කස්ටමර්ට මේක කියන්නද? I'm sorry to tell you, sometimes when the trade guys in the trade department, they overlook these things, right? Because there was a big damage happened in 2006 or 7, 2006 in Nagoya. There was a tsunami, and some of the containers which were parked in the containers which were about to load it to the ship, it was washed to the sea. Then that kind of containers pitting mail la pavela enewa tara eka wathurata වැටෙනවා. වැටුණාට පස්සේ insurance එකෙන් damage ගන්න ගියාම ලොකු issue එකක්. Reason, wrong Incoterm has been used. Wrong Incoterms has been used, right? So this is very important. The other one is free alongside ship. Free alongside ship and name port of shipment. This term is specially used for carriage of goods by sea, right? Free alongside ship. Ship එක ගාවට එන්න බෑ. ඒක. Ship එක ගාවින් තියෙනවා, then the seller's obligation is over. His only obligation is to bring the goods up to the vessel, right? Now I will ask some questions quickly. Can you answer? ඉස්ලාම කියන එක ගන්න මම ආසයි. පටපට ගාලා කියන්නේ. Who is responsible for the manufacturing of goods? Buyer or seller? Under
Seller.
FAS. Seller. Then pre-carriage.
Seller.
Then export duty. Export duty.
Buyer? Is it buyer, sir?
Buyer. Export duty. The මොකද FAS කියන්නේ free alongside ship. එතකොට free alongside ship, can they take the goods near the ship ready for loading without passing the custom barrier? You can't. ඔය තමයි ඔළුවෙන් ගන්න ඕනේවා. Right? You have to bring the goods up to the vessel. Then you have to pass the custom barrier. Then custom duty has to be paid by the seller. Export clearance. There. Export clearance also by the seller. මම අර export duty කියලා ඇහුවාම seller නම් මම අර ඕගලන්ව අමාරු දාන්න තමයි දෙන පාරක් question එක. එකම question එක දෙපාරකින් ඇහුවේ. Export clearance also seller. Who is responsible for the insurance? Who is responsible for the insurance?
Buyer.
Buyer. Buyer. Who is responsible for loading?
Buyer.
Buyer.
seller.
Buyer. Seller කරන්නේ නැව ගාවට ගේනවා විතරයි. Unloading?
Buyer.
Buyer. Now you understand. Right? Here, important thing I have mentioned. When the goods are in containers, the seller has to hand the goods. Has to hand over the goods or hand the goods over to the carrier at a terminal and not alongside the vessel. Hence, FCA rule is more appropriate. If it is containerized cargo, don't use FAS, use FCA. Use FCA, right? Containerized cargo පරිසම් වෙන්න ඕන. මේකේ දෙන්නේ දැන් එන්නේ බ්‍රවුන් එක වැඩි වෙනවනේ. Free alongside ship. එනකන් ඔක්කොම sellerගේ at seller's cost. Then after that it's buyer's cost. Right? Delivery alongside the ship on quake and JTK nominated by the buyer at point of shipment. Right? මේක උස්සලා දාන්නේ 4B as a common one. Be on board. Right? Here, free on board is now FAS is free alongside FAS free alongside ship now. Now goes one step further. We are keeping the goods on the deck. That means we are loading. We are loading. We are loading the goods. So loading will be also by the seller. Right? Earlier it was in Incoterm 2000 වල තිබුණා. Incoterm 2000 වල තිබුණා. මේ loading කියන්නේ the risk was transferring from seller to buyer when the goods goes over the ship's rail. When the goods goes over the ship's rail. Ship's rail කියන්නේ ship එකේ කෙරවලම තියෙන edge එකක්. ඒ rail එකෙන් එහා පැත්තට ගියා. You must have seen the famous film Titanic බලලා තියෙනව නේද? Titanic film එකේ ship's rail එක දැකලා නැත්නම් Titanic film එක බලන්න. ඒකේ අර Leonardo DiCaprio Rose and දෙන්න ඉන්නවනේ සින්දුව කියන්නේ famous song එක අත් දෙක දිග අරගෙන හේතු වෙලා තියෙන්නේ ships rail එකට. මම ඕව මතක තියාගන්න ඒ විදිහට. ships rail කියන එක තමයි ships rail එක දැකලා නැහැ හැබැයි Titanic බලලා දෙන ඔක්කොම. ඒකට you know how to fix it, right? ඒක 2000 එකේදී issues තිබුණා. Then 2010 එකේදී ඒක change කළා. FOB එකේ. They said to keep it on the deck, to load it on the deck. Right? Earlier it was when the goods goes over the ship's rail, then the risk will transfer to the other party. Then we'll have to keep it, load it on the deck. Right? Now, if I ask you some questions quickly, Yanabanda FOBAK, pre-carriage, buyer or seller?
Seller.
Seller. Then export clearance?
Seller.
Seller. What about other people? Anitha buyer kige buyer velama danne, right? Then export duty?
Seller.
Export duty seller. Very good. Then loading? Loading?
Seller.
Loading also seller. Very good. Loading also seller. Right? Loading also seller. Then booking the carriage, vessel, it is buyer. It is buyer. Then paying the carriage fee, buyer. Insurance, buyer. Unloading, buyer. On carriage, buyer. Right? The make mandara dini. Okkoma, ithering had a buyer. Right? Critical points. Carriage arranged by the buyer. Risk transferred to the buyer when the goods delivered on board the vessel. Nominated by the buyer. Vessel එක nominate කරන්න buyer. හැබැයි seller තමයි ඒ ගුඩින් තියන්නේ. Cost transferred from seller to the buyer when the goods delivered on board the vessel nominated by the buyer. Right? Here, now the brown is getting longer and longer. Now on board එනකම්ම දිගටම ආවා. The sellerගේ responsibility is වැඩි වෙගෙන යනවා. Then the CFR, cost and freight. Cost and වැඩි වුණොත් 5 minutes මට වැඩි වෙයි. ඒ 5 minutes නෙමෙයි 10 minutes වැඩි වෙයි 10 minutes ඔයගලන්ට මම බයින්නේ. You guys were late to start, right? නැත්නම් අපිට මේක ඉවර කරන්න තුන. Cost and freight, that is more than FOB, one step more than FOB. What is that? Contract for carriage and pay freight to the name port of destination by the seller. It is seller's primary duty. Other than that, everything by like FOB, right? Now again I am asking, pre-carriage by whom?
Buyer.
Seller.
Seller. මේක පැහැදිලිවම කියලා දෙනවා. නැවට පටවල එහා පැත්තට මේ කැරේජ් එකක් ගෙවන්න ඕන අපි. නැවට පටවල යනකම් ඔක්කොම සෙලර්ගේ. pre carriage seller. Then clearance, export clearance.
Seller.
Right? Then loading.
Seller.
Seller. Contract for carriage.
Seller.
Seller. Paying for carriage.
Seller.
Seller. Unloading.
Buyer.
Unloading, buyer. Unloading, buyer. Right? And then import duty.
Buyer.
Buyer. On carriage to the warehouse by the buyer. Then ඔගන්න දැන් තේරෙනව නේද? දැන් ඔළුවට ගත්තට පස්සේ පටපට ගාලා ඔයාගලගේ ඔළුවෙන් හදාගන්න ඒවා. කටපාඩම් ගන්න නෙමෙයි තියෙන්නේ ගන්නට සෙට් කරගන්න. Critical points: carriage arranged by the seller, risk transferred to the buyer when the goods delivered on board the vessel, cost transferred at the port of destination. Cost transferred කියන්නේ එතෙන්ට එනකම් port of destination එක වෙනකම් sellerගේ cost එක දීලා දෙනවා. එතනින් එහාට නැවෙන් බා ගන්න එක බයගේ වැඩේ. Right? CFR දැන් තව ටිකක් එහාට යනවා. On arrival වෙනකම් ground එක වැඩි වෙලා තියෙනවා උගන්න. Right? PIF. PIF is cost, insurance and freight. That means one more step further to CFR, cost and freight. That is, insurance is also paid by the seller. Insurance is also paid by the seller. Right? So seller's primary duty: contract for the carriage and transport documents, pay freight up to the name port of destination, deliver goods on board, provide export clearance, arrange insurance and pay premium. That is also seller's primary duty. Right? Buyer's primary duties, clearance of cargo surrendering the BL, providing import clearance and pay unloading charges. Right? CIF. CIP. CIP is carriage and insurance paid to. It is very much similar to, almost similar to CIF. The difference is CIP is for any mode of transport. CIF is only, what do you call this? Sea and inland waterways. CIF. CIP for any mode of transport. Airway bills aircraft air transport CIP. Right? This term could be used for any mode of carriage. Carriage and insurance paid to. Then carriage insurance pay CIF again. Exporter fulfills his contractual obligations when he delivers the goods packed in usual manner to the carrier. Seller must contract for and pay the cost of the carriage. Unless otherwise agreed, the seller must obtain at his own cost cargo insurance complying with the cover provided by cargo clauses A. Cargo clause A. මෙතන තියෙනවා පොඩි difference එකක් CIF and CIP. In Incoterm 2020, the latest change last year, 2020 KV, ඒගොල්ලෝ introduce කළා insurance. We can use cargo clause A, B, and C. A is fully insured, all risks covered. B, certain perils are not covered. C is the minimum. It's like C is like third party insurance එකක් car එකක් කියලා වගේ. යන්න පුළුවන්. accident එකක් වුණොත් සමහර covers අපිට නැහැ. Right? ඒක හින්දා මේකේ CIP එකේදී they always insist that the goods have to be insured, fully insured. Cargo clause A. That means all risk covered. Right? Okay. Done. 5:30. I did it. Right? Thanks to you people because good crowd. I hope you all will be there next week also, because next week I'm going to discuss a lot of things with you. Right? I'm going to discuss a lot of things with you, especially the risk part, which is very important to branch people, especially for branch managers, system managers like that, and credit officers. ඔය ටික පොඩ්ඩක් අතාරින්න එපා කොහොමරි එන්න. And if time permits, I will discuss with you regarding double financing and accommodation financing, especially good for Deshan, for you and other credit officers. For the overall customers are loans, you have to monitor, and nowadays customers are crooks, right? So you have to be very careful. You have to identify whether they are doing the double financing, right? Trade also do it, but you are the main people, right? You are the people who knows about your customers, KYC, right? I think it's very, very important. About today's presentations, if you have any questions, go ahead. I'm ready. If you have any questions, I'm ready. But I like the way you people ask questions while I'm teaching, rather than waiting for the last moment. Stop me and ask questions. Stop me and ask questions. Man keep දේවල් ඔයගන්ට තේරෙනවද? වදිෂානි? ටිකක් හරි තේරුණාද?
ඔව් සර්.
ටිකක් හරි තේරුණා. Dilshan, do you think it is useful to you?
Yes, sir, definitely. So I have one question.
Yeah.
Regarding DP and DA, are there any specific products or any specific business category that applied for this DP and DA?
No.
Okay.
No. But during last few months, right? During last few months, you must have seen how much of time central bank circulars are getting changed. They issue circulars in the morning. The following day morning, there's an amendment. Right? You must be getting all the circulars from head office. Trade nang පිස්සෙදලා මට නම් තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ උගන්නන්න කොහොමද කියලා. මම දැන් ට්‍රේඩ් ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එකේ මාර ගත්තොත් මටත් බැරි වෙනවා. එච්චරටම මොනවද පටන් අරන් කොහෙන්ද කෙලවර වෙන්නේ කියලා දන්නේ නැහැ. In simple, what they say is not to pay. How can you do that? When you import goods under DP, unless you pay, the bank will not release the documents. Finish. Okay? Then under DA, you accept the bill and we release the document. You go and collect the goods. You sell it. After 3 months, you are a very honest customer. You come to the bank to pay. You come to the bank to pay. But the bank says, sorry, we have a shortage of dollars, right? So we'll have to give priority for LC payments, collection. Just hold on. Dragging. But think about the relationship between the buyer and the seller. Buyer is willing to pay. Buyer is willing to pay, but we can't remit the money out. So do you think the next time that particular seller will send the goods to this particular buyer? Do you think? This is the critical point which everybody, they are deaf and dumb. Can't help. We are heading to always when you see certain things, when you see a circular, when you watch news, analyze it. You have to do it in an analytical mind, right? What is going to happen? What is going to happen? Now we have some of our customers, not some, I think most of the people, they want to pay. They are prepared to pay. Even I don't know. Either you can collect the money and keep it with you, because next time when your bank has dollars, at that time customer may not have money. So whether we can keep the money and in a margin account and keep it, the bank should think about those things, right? So keep it in a queue and then do the payments. But anyway, what the seller wants, we discuss about objectives of the buyers and the sellers. They want the money on the due date. If you can't pay, our relationship will spoil. Right? Then the Samara question Dilshan, Samara Badunan, then Nan Kilatina, don't bring the goods on DP payments. It should be on DA payments. On that 90 days DA. So 90 days DA them agree with. Definitely they will add up a big margin for that 90 days period. Interest portion, definitely, right? So these are critical things. We have to analyze it in a as bankers' point of view, not in political point of view. Bankers' point of view. Bankers' point of view. When we are dealing with our customers, these are things for you to think about. Okay, then I wish you all good health. Stay safe. I don't know, and we'll meet next week. Thank you.